They told us it was impossible to reach this point, and here we are, stronger than ever. So our strategy is working. We need to move ahead.
Maria Corina Machado, I thank you very much indeed for joining me on Hard Talk. Thank you.
That was Hard Talk. I'm Saroja Coelho. You're listening to CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We are live downtown after a very, very windy day, just really active out there. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Here we are in a new month. Welcome to October. You're listening to CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or YouTube. Good morning to the team. Abby Adiemi behind the controls. Hi, Abby. Abby's going to be on the air covering weather thus as well. Good morning to Kevin Nipatebo, giving you the big wave on YouTube. Kevin's our YouTube producer with the dramatic hands that you see waving at you every morning. And good morning to Corey Funk, who is our studio director, show director, and also will be on the air covering the commute. And so this morning, your commute still will be a little windy. Our winds today, southwest 30 to 50, our high 17 degrees in Winnipeg, and we'll have lots of sunshine. Let's find out at 3 minutes to 6 about our local headlines. Here now is Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, lack of daycare space has forced a blind immigrant in Winnipeg to put his career on hold. Olatomi Waziri was robbed and attacked by armed bandits in Nigeria 5 years ago. The attack left him blind. He and his family moved to Winnipeg last November. A long wait list for daycare, though, has impacted his career, forcing him to become a stay-at-home dad. He's on wait lists and still can't find the space he needs so that he could resume his career. So we'll hear from him. And starting today, Manitobans can access more than 60 birth control products with a prescription for free. That includes the pill, intrauterine devices, and hormone injections. All are now covered. We'll hear more in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, we are this morning on the program, speaking of October 1st, going to be talking about something very special. The Nigerian flag is going to be raised at the Legislative Building this morning in commemoration of Nigerian Independence Day. We're going to talk to the president of the Nigerian Association Manitoba today in advance of her going to some ceremonies. This is the first time that it's officially being recognized in our province, so stay tuned for that interview. Also, this morning on the program, we're going to build on a report we talked about on Friday. This is about diabetes and what is happening in terms of amputations. Today, we talked to the executive director of the National Indigenous Diabetes Association to respond to the report, which showed increased diabetic leg amputations in Manitoba. And they say it's no surprise. So we'll find out why. Right now, it's time for World Report at 6.
Today on Q with Tom Power. Nuno Betancourt is best known as the lead guitarist of the funk metal band Extreme. Nuno will tell you how their hit More Than Words changed his life. The secret to a perfect guitar solo, I'll give you a little hint, it has nothing to do with how well you play the guitar. That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. Israel's military says its troops are on the ground in southern Lebanon, and it is warning people in 30 border villages to evacuate immediately. The military says it is only targeting Hezbollah strongholds, but Lebanon's prime minister says his country has entered one of the most dangerous phases in its history. Sasha Petrosek is following developments in Jerusalem.
With rockets from Hezbollah shooting overhead, Israel's commandos moved into Lebanon overnight in a limited ground invasion, says military spokesman Daniel Hagari.
These localized ground raids will target Hezbollah strongholds that threaten Israeli towns, kibbutzim, and communities along our border.
The Iran-backed Hezbollah vows it's ready to fight, with already reports of fierce confrontations. Israeli airstrikes also continue to hit Beirut and southern Lebanon, killing at least 95 people since yesterday, say local health officials. Lebanese independent member of parliament Najat Saliba says people are angry and afraid.
It's really a country invading another country, and the destruction is like one thing after another, never stops. and the killing is not stopping either.
Former British National Security Advisor Peter Rickett says this new phase could also be dangerous for Israel.
If guerrilla fighting develops and they're facing Hezbollah fighters hardened in the battles in Syria, they may well find that it's difficult to do these very short-term, go in quickly, pull out quickly kind of raids.
Indeed, Israel has been stuck fighting in Lebanon for years in previous wars. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The new head of NATO says the alliance will step up its support for Ukraine. Former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte takes over as NATO Secretary General today. He succeeds longtime Chief Jens Stoltenberg.
We must deliver on the package agreed at the Washington summit. The command, the financial pledge, and Ukraine's irreversible path to membership. And we must sustain this support into the future, because Ukraine's rightful place is in NATO.
Rutte says he will rally that support and is likely to push NATO countries to increase defense spending. He is stepping into the job as Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine approaches the 1,000-day mark. For the first time in more than 200 years of independence, a woman will be sworn in as Mexico's president. Claudia Sheinbaum takes the oath of office today. She's a scientist and a former Mexico City mayor. Sheinbaum won nearly 60% of the vote in June's election. She ran on a promise to fight for the poor and improve social welfare. But Sheinbaum faces a tough road ahead. Mexico is struggling with high levels of violence, a sluggish currency, and a ballooning deficit. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange says he is free because he pled guilty to journalism. Assange was released from a UK prison in June and is making his first public comments this morning. Assange was let go after pleading guilty to obtaining and publishing U.S. military secrets.
I've tried in my work to be rigorously accurate. I believe accuracy is everything. Primary sources are everything. But there is one area where I am an activist and all journalists must be an activist. Journalists must be activists for the truth.
Assange was speaking to the Council of Europe about his 14-year legal fight and 5 years of detention. He was accused of publishing hundreds of thousands of war logs and diplomatic cables. Today will feature yet another opposition debate in the House of Commons. This motion is coming from the Bloc Québécois. It's trying to amplify a key demand leader Yves-François Blanchet says must be met by October 29, or else, he says, he will initiate a non-confidence vote of his own. Janice McGregor joins us now from our Parliamentary Bureau. And Janice, walk us through what to listen for in this debate.
Marcia, we're leaning in here on Bill C-319. This is one of two private members' bills initiated by the Bloc Québécois that it now wants passed without further delay. Essentially, this is a condition in what's effectively a ransom deal that leader Yves-François Blanchet laid out last week. This particular bill needs more than votes to become law. It would top up the pensions of seniors over 65, the same way seniors over 75 got a 10% pension top up 2 years ago. But the price tag to do that, huge, over $3 billion a year. Seniors, as a rule, vote. So it's good politics for opposition parties to appeal to them, particularly the Bloc, which acknowledges that their base of sovereigntist voters in Quebec is aging. Even though all the opposition parties support this bill and it's got the votes numerically to pass, it will not take effect unless it has something called royal recommendation. Effectively, the blessing to spend that much money on an annual basis. And it's this call for a royal recommendation to be granted as soon as possible that's up for debate in the House today. Liberal cabinet ministers have said they already believe their government has done a lot for seniors. So we'll watch what they say today to see if there's any hint that with the future of their government on the line, the political calculation might be changing, if not the fiscal one. But unlike the first two opposition motions we saw, there's no wording here about the House losing confidence in the government. So even if opposition MPs vote to pass it, it's still going to be non-binding on the Liberals.
All right. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. The candidates for U.S. Vice President meet face-to-face tonight. Democrat Tim Walz and Republican J.D. Vance will take to the stage in New York for their first and only debate. They will have 90 minutes to win over Americans. With the election just 35 days away, many say tonight's performances could make or break their campaigns. The CBC's Richard Madden joins me now from Washington. And Richard, what can we expect from tonight's debate?
Yeah, it'll be a big night. I suspect both nominees, Vance and Walz, will lean into their small-town rural roots and humble upbringings. And I expect we'll hear a lot on issues like abortion, the economy, immigration, and trade. Now, both campaigns are already downplaying their own expectations, despite the fact they both have plenty of experience on the debate stage. J.D. Vance is a senator and Tim Walz a governor. Now, behind the scenes, they've been preparing. Democrats have recruited Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg to play J.D. Vance in mock debates, while Republican Congressman Tom Emmer has been cast to play fellow Minnesotan Tim Walz. Take a listen to how he described it.
I spent the last month just going back all of his old stuff to get his phrases down, his mannerisms, that sort of thing. My job was to be able to play Tim Walz so J.D. Vance knows what he's going to see.
Now, there's an old saying that the job of a VP candidate is to amplify the message atop of the ticket, not to distract or contradict it. That said, both are looking for that viral moment or knockout punch.
Richard, what could tonight's debate do for these campaigns going forward?
Yeah, well, traditionally, VP debates don't carry the same clout as a presidential debate, but they matter, especially in an election as tight as this one, where that small sliver of undecideds could make all the difference. There'll be no studio audience, microphones will be on when the other person is speaking, and each candidate will fact-check the other. So the pressure's on, and curtains will be up tonight at 9 Eastern Time.
Thanks, Richard.
You bet.
The CBC's Richard Madden in Washington. Starting today, prescription birth control is free in Manitoba. It is just the second province to make the move. The provincial pharmacare program will now cover the costs of several birth control products. Health advocates say it's a step towards removing barriers to reproductive health. Cameron McIntosh has more.
Walking to class, University of Manitoba student Maddie Sigmundson says it'll make a difference.
Everyone I know, honestly, my age, that's something that they're taking, right?
As of today, prescription birth control in Manitoba is free. Sigmundson sees it as more than just a monthly cost eliminated.
It's just another thing on top of everything, and it's something that's so necessary, and it's so, life-saving almost. Right?
Manitoba is the second province behind BC to do it. It will cover about 60 commonly used birth control methods, including the pill and intrauterine devices.
The ones that I see that struggle are those that are the working poor.
Dr. Jacqueline Goujon says this will be life-altering for many women she sees.
So this isn't only about contraception. This is about managing periods, other symptoms that can come with hormonal changes, managing acne, dysmenorrhea, so painful periods.
Uzoma Azagwara is Manitoba's health minister.
It's the right thing to do for healthcare and reproductive justice. It's going to allow people to plan.
Manitoba's plan comes in advance of a federal promise to include contraceptives in a national pharmacare program, which is currently before the Senate. The provincial government says it's already negotiating with Ottawa to help pick up the costs. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, 11 degrees is the hot spot in the province this morning, and that's not happening in Winnipeg. We'll get into our forecast in a moment. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Good morning, everyone. You're with CBC. You might be listening on 89.3 FM, on 990 AM, on the app or YouTube, wherever you are. Thanks for joining us. New month, October 1st. And this hour on the program, we're going to talk about another thing that October 1st marks, which is National Seniors Day in this country. But seniors advocates are highlighting the hidden poverty that a growing number of elders are living with in Canada. We're going to walk through that. In addition, we're going to learn why a men's only club is opening its doors to everyone this week. It's specific, actually, to senior men, and we'll find out more about the needs and how it's growing in our city. It's a local club. And a little later in the hour, we're going to talk with Ryan Tumulty, parliamentary reporter with the National Post, about, once again, today's non-confidence vote in the House of Commons. Where do we go from here? Heather Wells is in right now with our headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a Manitoba medical resident is urging the province to offer financial incentives to new doctors. Other provinces like Ontario and Saskatchewan do offer contract agreements. Manitoba did once in 2017, but hasn't done that since then, saying response was mixed. So we're going to hear more about this particular doctor and what he'd like to see the province do. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is over for another year, but you are being encouraged not to put that orange shirt away. Thousands, as we know, took part in yesterday's events throughout the province. We're going to hear from educator Cree Crowchild, who says reconciliation is 365 days a year. Those stories and more coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Oh, I should ask you before you go, Heather. Did you notice downed trees in your neighborhood? I was going through River Heights this morning, and I know this is because of the wind in the last couple of days, but some really big ones in people's front yards, like crossing the sidewalks.
Yeah, the wind was just incredible. All I've been seeing are just branches, but not entire trees.
Yeah, it was crazy. Actually, I passed one this morning in River Heights. And then yesterday, my husband had the day off. He was in the golf course in St. Boniface, and there was a tree there. Golfers are joking that it's a new hazard, of course.
It is.
But yeah, it was crazy.
The wind was the hazard yesterday.
Oh, it was just incredible. So we do still have a wind warning for part of the province. Abby's in now with our forecast for today. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, let's start with that wind warning where we have a wind warning in effect for Churchill. We hear that strong winds are expected to cause potential harm this morning. That wind coming from the northwest, blowing really strong this morning, gusting from 60 all the way to 90. So if you're up there, you need to take care because this might be affecting everybody. But let's talk about Winnipeg right now. It's going to be a sunny start. Most of the regions will see sunny conditions. A transition to cloudy, then some breezy conditions will be felt later in the day. We're going to see temperatures reaching 5 degrees in Churchill and then warming up to 18 in Brandon. Winnipeg currently 8 degrees clear. We're going to see sunny skies today, then some clouds will roll in this afternoon. It will be breezy later on. Winnipeg only warming up to 17, though this is warmer than our seasonal. This time of the year, we're usually around 14 degrees. Clear in Thompson, Churchill seeing light rain at this time, and down south we're seeing Brandon at 2 degrees, and then the rest of the southern regions hovering between 4 degrees and 6 degrees. So it's just going to be a sunny start across the province, and then we're going to see cloudy conditions, and highs would only get close to 18 degrees. Right now, Winnipeg, we are at 8 degrees.
Happy Independence Day, Abby! It's Nigerian Independence Day.
Yeah, I feel it's an honor.
Yeah,
to be a Nigerian and of course celebrating this big day here in Canada. Looking at history from stories from my great-grandparents and my grandparents and my parents telling me about how it all started with the scramble for Africa, and then the Berlin Conference, and that journey of slavery to the point of no return, and close to like the late 1950s they started to make that push to be an independent state, and then they got it in between 57 and 59.
Yeah.
And it became like a sovereign state.
And today, of course, is the first time it's going to be officially marked in Manitoba.
It's really
the
an
flag
honor
raising
here
coming
in
up.
Manitoba, yeah.
Yeah, so the flag raising's at 8 o'clock. We actually have an interview about it in the next hour, but is there a better greeting Corey and I could give you that is more culturally appropriate?
No, just happy anniversary,
Okay.
Happy Independence anniversary.
Okay, we did all right. We did all right. Corey is in with a commute.
Yeah, this is, I'm doing this personal experiment these days where I try to figure out what temperature is it no longer fun to wear socks and sandals in when I bike in.
And what have you discovered?
Turns out, today's about the temperature. You don't want to wear socks and sandals. So.
All right. So you want full coverage on your feet?
Yeah, you're gonna want closed-toed shoes for the ride in this morning. In terms of things that are happening out there for if you're in a car or anything else, haven't heard of any major issues out there on the highways or the roads. But if you do see something going on, if you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. I'll let folks know what you're seeing. That number to call 204-788-3093.
Well, up first on the show this hour, it is not a man cave. It's not a men's therapy group. It's called Men's Shed. And for 15 years, the Woodhaven Men's Shed has been a representative example of a men's sheds group that happen around the world. The men's shed there has been helping retired men in the city find community. This week, the group is opening its doors, though, to everyone. In a series of events that kick off today, they end on Friday. Manitobans of all ages and genders are going to actually have a chance to experience life in a men's shed. Brian McMillan is Woodhaven's president and reached out to CBC to talk about the event. Hi there, Brian.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Now, I know quite a lot about Men's Shed, but for those that don't know about the history of this and how the organization started for men, in particular senior men, can you share a little bit about its origin?
Yeah, absolutely. So Men's Sheds are local community organizations that provide the opportunity for senior men to meet, to socialize, and pursue crafts and personal interests. Men's Sheds originated in the 1980s in Australia as a way to improve the health and well-being of older men. Since then, the movement has spread to other countries, including Ireland, the UK, USA, and Canada. The Woodhaven Men's Shed was started about 15 years ago by Doug Mackey and David Friesen. We were actually the first men's shed in Canada, and we currently have about 80 members.
So is it right that you're opening your doors to everyone, not just senior men? Is it in an effort to have people learn more about what you do?
Yeah, exactly. So our open house today from 1 to 4 is an opportunity for us to, first of all, celebrate the success of our shed and also to invite community members, male and female, young and old, to drop by and just see what we're all about.
What's the benefit of having family members come there? Is it in an effort that maybe if they have a man in their life even that may not be interested, that it could be something they might encourage?
You know, that is a big part of it. We have a lot of the guys that show up, they say, you know, my wife read about you and she said I should get out of the house and come down and find out what you guys are all about. So that is part of it. But also, again, it's a celebration. And we're really happy that we, for example, have got Gordon Goldsborough from the Manitoba Historical Society coming out as the speaker. And that's something we like to do. Aside from just what we normally do as a men's shed, we like to involve the community and have people come in and, partake in these kind of events.
What drew you, Brian, to Men's Shed? What types of, what got you through the door and how do you spend your time there?
Well, I started off with Men's Shed just because I had retired. I had a bit of extra time on my hands and I was really interested in meeting some new people. I think a lot of men find that when you're working, you have a circle of friends, a circle of people that you meet, that you spend a lot of time with. And once you retire, a lot of that falls off to the side. So that was a big part of what I was interested in. All of our activities are directed by the interests of our members. So my interests were music, and I was involved with stained glass. So from my musical interest, I found that a number of the guys in the organization either had been professional musicians in the past or just really interested, hobby, singing in the background at parties and things like that. So we put together a little musical group, and that's been a lot of fun for all of us. We have about 7 guys that come. We have ukulele players, guitar players, percussion players, a harmonica player, etc.
So cool.
Yeah, we get together and play at assisted living buildings and, different events that we put on ourselves. So that's been a lot of fun. From a glass perspective, 2 years ago, we put together a mosaic, wall mosaic about 4 feet by 8 feet that we donated to the Bruce Oak Recovery Center. So, that was a really interesting project for me also.
Beautiful. And staying in the neighborhood, the wider neighborhood in St. James out there on the edge of Woodhaven.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that, when I was in visiting your Men's Sheds group years ago, when it was just getting started, it was there were a lot of woodworkers and some people just wanted to have coffee and sit and be around others or engage in conversation. You started with, I think, about 5 or 6 members. How much did it grow to?
Yeah, so right now we have about 80 members.
Wow.
Yeah. We meet twice a week, so, everybody doesn't come in every day. Mm-hmm. It's the kind of thing where we all have lives, so we come out whenever we can. And you're absolutely right. We have people that are doing wood carving, stained glass, as I mentioned. We have a remote control plane that our members are building together. We have a book club, and many members, again, as you mentioned, play cards while drinking coffee and solving the world's problems. always fun.
There's enough of them to solve.
Yeah, exactly.
What would would you say to a retired man that might be listening right now, just given that that's often who you draw, that might be struggling, in getting out of the house or, not sure if this is for them, but they're kind of interested?
Yeah, well, that's exactly one of the reasons that we wanted to have the open house also, right? People often, they'll see an ad in the paper or they'll, hear about us from a friend, and they're just kind of reluctant to go in by themselves and check us out. So this is just an opportunity for them to do that. And the thing is, everybody just walks in as a stranger. But what we hope is you come in, you sit down, you have a cup of coffee, you talk to some of the members, and it's surprising. Again, we're kind of a community. We have people from Port Garry, from Charleswood, from all over the city, but in general, most of our members are from the St. James, Charleswood area, and it's amazing how many people come in and say, "Oh, Nick, I haven't seen you for years. How you doing?" Rekindling old friendships, etc.
How important is it, not to get too serious here, but I know that in the past we've done stories on the rates of mental health challenges and even suicide among senior men specifically. What are the benefits of something like this for one's mental health?
Well, it's huge, of course. I mean, it doesn't matter, male, female. Socialization as we get older is a huge part of our lives, right? And if we don't have the opportunity to meet new people and to sit down and have those in-depth conversations, health, for example, is a big thing. So a lot of our guys have gone through a lot of health issues, and when someone is suffering, is struggling with a health issue, often there's someone who's been through it, and they can give them some idea of how it was for them, how they moved through it, how they've dealt with it afterwards, etc. I think that's a huge part of it. Socialization has got to be the biggest part.
Yeah.
Other than that, learning new skills. I mean, a lot of people, like you mentioned with wood carving, they come in, they don't have wood carving skills. It's a really simple thing to get involved in to start off with. A ukulele group that we have, again, if you're not playing guitar or piano or, singing, ukulele is a really interesting instrument to pick up.
It sounds like we missed the boat a little this morning, Brian. It's been a pleasure talking with you, but if we could open the show with your ukulele group.
Okay, sounds good.
Next time. All right, so 1 to 4 today, Westwood Community Church, 401 Westwood Drive. Special guest speaker, Dr. Gordon Goldsborough from the Manitoba Historical Society, if you want to check out Men's Sheds. Did I get that all right?
That is perfect. Thank you.
All right. Take care, Brian. Thank you.
Okay. You too. Bye for now.
Brian McMillan is Woodhaven Men's Shed's president. And if you want to read more about the open house, I know I said that information quite quickly. It is this afternoon, and you can check it out online to remind yourself of where and what they're all about. woodhavenmenshed.ca.
For breaking news as it happens, stay with CBC News. For the latest updates and what it means for Canadians, stay with CBC News. When the biggest stories break, both at home and around the world, stay with CBC News.
6:25 a.m. is the time right now on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app or YouTube. Thanks for being with us this morning. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at the show, and in the control room, Abby Adiyemi and Corey Funk and Kevin Ipatebo. In your life outside, if you're up and out and about this morning already in Winnipeg, it's just 8 degrees at the Forks, and it is 4 degrees at the airport. The cold spot is Shoal Lake. It's right sitting at 0 right now. Well, it is a National Seniors Day. And I asked on Facebook this morning, for your life in Manitoba, if you're a senior, what is it that would improve your life? Brian Monkman wrote in early this morning. Thanks for writing, Brian. Brian said higher CPP payments and old age payments. And our next interview actually is all about affordability. Given the affordability and housing crisis, it is not an easy time for many people, including many seniors. More Canadian seniors are slipping into poverty, and some advocates are calling for awareness about it. Alyssa Brierley's here to start that awareness and have a conversation about it. She's the executive director of the National Institute on Aging. Good morning.
Good morning.
I think it's really representative that the first person that answered my question talked about, just needing some help financially. How many seniors are on low income in Canada right now?
Mm-hmm. We know that 17% of older adults in Canada live below 50% of the median Canadian income. So based on those numbers, that means there could be up to 1.33 million older adults in Canada living in poverty, which makes the over 65 population one of the worst off groups in Canada. But we also know that this is not distributed evenly throughout the population. So women, renters, older adults who live alone, and older adults who immigrated to Canada are at the highest risk of poverty.
Many seniors are reportedly spending a large proportion of their income on housing, up to 50% in some cities. Can you share more about that and obviously the impact that has on people's lives?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1 in 4 households in Canada that are led by older adults are renter households, and we are in the midst of a housing crisis in Canada. Over the past decade, average rents have escalated far beyond people's incomes, and many people of all ages are experiencing affordability crunches when it comes to housing, but this is particularly difficult for people who are out of the labor force and living on a fixed income. So as a result, older renters are more likely than other demographics to be living in unaffordable housing. And the situation is quite dire, most dire, in fact, in Canadian cities where the cost of housing is the highest. So in Toronto, for example, 60% of older adult renters are living in unaffordable housing. And this means that older adults are finding themselves increasingly having to choose between paying rent or paying for things like food, health expenses, or care expenses. And in a worst case scenario, it can even lead to homelessness.
What do we understand about the numbers around seniors and homelessness then?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not a good news story. Unfortunately, homelessness is growing among older adults in Canada. We know that the number of older adults using shelters is increasing. So as of 2021, 32% of people using shelters were 50 years of age and older. But it's important to keep in mind that those numbers don't tell the entire story, because using a shelter is only one way that people experience homelessness. And these numbers don't take into account, for example, older adults who may be living outdoors or on the street, or who experience what's called hidden homelessness by doing things like sleeping in their cars or couch surfing or living temporarily with friends or family. We also know that shelters are generally not designed to support the needs of older adults. So even when older adults are able to access them, they may not be accessible, they may not have staff that can provide care or supports that older adults need, and they may not be able to do things like store and help administer medications for older adults.
What are some of the solutions that have been put forward to help with all of this?
Mm-hmm. Well, income support programs in Canada have generally been quite successful in reducing poverty across many demographics. So for older adults, that means programs like the Old Age Security and the Guaranteed Income Supplement. Both of those have been very important poverty reduction programs. That having been said, they're not perfect, and there's still some significant gaps, particularly when it comes to the rising cost of living and housing. When you consider, for example, that the combined total that someone between the ages of 65 and 76 can get through OAS and GIS is $1,790, while the average rent for a vacant one-bedroom apartment in Vancouver and Toronto is upwards of $3,000 a month. And that doesn't factor into account other costs that older adults disproportionately face around things like home care, which our public system doesn't provide sufficient access to. So many folks are paying out of pocket for things like that, as well as other supports that sort of provide assistance to people around the house when they're aging in their homes. So we definitely, because of these gaps, we definitely need more interventions that address the income challenges that older adults face and the expenses that are associated with aging.
Well, we'll hand it back to the Manitoba audience and find out what people have to say, the listeners this morning, about this. Thank you very much for the analysis. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That's Alyssa Brierley, Executive Director of the National Institute on Aging. And so we are asking you on Facebook this morning on my Marcy Marcusa page on this National Seniors Day, what would improve your life in Manitoba? Write to us, or you can call us as well. Pick up the phone, 788-3205. 204-788-3205 is the listener line. Traffic this morning should be fine out there. We haven't had any early morning calls, at least about your commute, but if you have something to pass along, that's a different number. 788-3093, 788-3093. Business news after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is clear. It's a little chilly out there. 8 degrees right now. We'll warm up to 17, but once again, it is windy with gusts up to 50 kilometers an hour from the southwest. We'll see clouds move in this afternoon. A resident physician says he is shocked Manitoba won't offer financial incentives to new doctors. The province offers a variety of incentives for physicians throughout their careers, but not when they're starting out. Other provinces, like Saskatchewan and Ontario, have such incentives. Dr. Stefan Irvin is in his first year of a medical residency. He wants to work up north where he grew up, but says he will have big loans to pay off.
I want resident physicians to be able to live month to month and not worry about how they're going to balance their book and not continually have to go into debt each month through their training program to make a balanced budget. And a return to service incentive is that answer.
The province last offered an incentive for new doctors in 2017. Irvin wrote to the province to ask for it again. He even named colleagues considering incentives in other jurisdictions, but the province refused his request. Manitoba's health minister says they appreciate the financial challenges of physicians in training. Uzoma Asaguera says the government provides help throughout a doctor's career, financial and otherwise.
It's not necessarily just about the dollars and cents. It's really about that connection you can make on site in communities to ensure that, for example, your family is able to access childcare, that your kids can go to a good school, that you can be mentored by physicians and peers.
Manitoba has the second lowest physician rate in the country, according to the Canadian Institute of Health Research. It has 215 doctors per 100,000 people, below the national average of 247. Oluwatomi Waziri is a Nigerian immigrant who is facing a long wait for daycare for his 2 children. Waziri was robbed and attacked by armed bandits in Nigeria 5 years ago, leaving him blind. He moved to Winnipeg last November with his family, but a long wait list for daycare has impacted his career and forced him to become a stay-at-home dad.
It's a struggle, so I have to stay at home. I have to, stop all the career dreams that I had, being a massage therapist, and I can't do that with babysitting my daughter and the kids. So it's really hard, getting childcare support.
Waziri has applied to almost 10 daycare centers. He's on wait lists for most, and some have not called back. His son goes to IRCOM's Child Care Center for half days. IRCOM says it has 16 preschool spots, but triple the number of children waiting to get in. The province says it's trying to deal with a shortage of daycare spaces. Starting today, Manitobans can access more than 60 prescription birth control products free of charge. The pill, intrauterine devices, and hormone injections are among the options now covered by the province. Kemlyn Nembhard at Women's Health Clinic in Winnipeg says the province's new coverage is an important starting point, but wishes more contraceptives were included in the rollout.
I'd also love to see that condoms are covered too, so that, it kind of equals the equation and we're looking at all possibilities being covered. Not everybody wants to use hormonal birth control. It can wreak havoc on your body. Some people just don't feel comfortable with that, and they should be allowed an option as well.
Manitoba is the second province to cover birth control after BC. A motion to create a national pharmacare program which would cover contraceptives is currently before the Senate. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is over for another year, but you are being encouraged not to put that orange shirt away. Thousands were part of events yesterday across the province, including the Wasay Healing Center's Healing Walk through downtown Winnipeg. It was the first time Truth and Reconciliation Day was recognized as a statutory holiday in Manitoba. Educator Cree Crowchild hopes Manitobans don't treat it like just another holiday.
We don't want to lose sight of why this day is very special. It's not a long weekend to go to the lake. There should be a day on this day to go do something. So for me, I really want to be cautious of that sentiment of a holiday, but not to lose sight of why we're here. Children never made it home.
Crowchild says that is something that needs to be acknowledged every day. He adds reconciliation is 365 days a year. And if you earn minimum wage in Manitoba, you're getting a raise today. Manitoba's minimum wage is going up 50 cents to $15.80 an hour. The hike follows a formula set in provincial law tied to the rate of inflation in the previous year. BC has the highest minimum wage of all the provinces at $17.40. Saskatchewan and Alberta have the lowest at $15. And across Canada, the highest minimum wage is in Nunavut at $19 an hour. You can find more news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Well, you know what, Heather? Thanks a lot.
Oh, no.
You just gave me 3 things to ask the listeners about, and I'm trying to decide because I just posted about National Seniors Day, which is great. Yes. I want to hear from seniors about their lives in Manitoba and what could improve them and such. But then minimum wage today? Yeah, October 1.
Yes.
So we need to hear about that too. And then you were talking about some other things in the news as well that I wrote.
Free birth control.
Yeah, the free birth control story. I'm like, all of those things are things that I would be very interested to hear what listeners have to say about. So,
well, and speaking of Seniors Day, today in the House of Commons, which I'm sure you're going to touch on later in this half hour, the Bloc Québécois is putting forward a motion to increase the pensions of seniors, the federal pensions of seniors across the country.
Yeah, they're putting forward old age security going up 10% between the ages of 65 and 74. This is put forward by the Bloc, as you said. So we will have analysis of that coming up, actually. So, all right. This is
much to talk about.
Call on anything. It's that morning. All right. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
The listener line, and that's true, actually. You can call about anything you hear. 788-3205. All right. Let's get into what's happening weather-wise. Abby Adeyemi is in today. And as Heather said at the top of the news, Abby, it won't be quite like yesterday, but still really windy.
Yeah, it's still going to be windy, though. We're going to start sunny for most parts of the province, then becoming breezy in a lot of the area as we get into the afternoon. Currently, Winnipeg at 8 degrees. It's clear outside. We will see some sunny conditions, then a transition to a mix of sun and cloud, becoming breezy later. Winnipeg is going to be warming up to 17, and then tonight more clouds will roll in and light winds as we approach the midnight period. Heading west to Brandon, 2 degrees at this time, mainly clear skies we're seeing. Today will also be sunny. Clouds will roll in as we get into the afternoon. It will feel breezy as the day progresses, and the high for Brandon will only get to 18. Thompson is clear at 2 degrees at this time. Today, mainly sunny conditions. Some cloudiness will roll in later. We'll have a slight chance of showers this afternoon. Expect breezy conditions reaching a high of 10. And then for tonight, this is the first time I'm seeing these numbers. I'm like, tonight we're going to be seeing -1 for folks in Thompson. So yeah, we're getting there. Churchill for the north, 4 degrees at this time. Light rain showers, breezy conditions is what you'll be feeling. We have this wind warning, strong winds throughout the day. Showers will be ending later, but then you're still going to feel the winds really gusting all the way to 90 for folks in Churchill. So you need to take care. And then you're going to be cooling off to 2 degrees. So we're like getting to that frigid conditions in most of the province. Darwin at 6, heading to a high of 17 today. Also breezy. Gimli at 6, clear at this time. The Interlake region will see sunny skies, then turning cloudy, breezy northwest winds, high 15. Steinbach at 6, clear skies at this time. You're heading to a high of 17. Right now, Winnipeg, we're at 8 degrees, and we are heading to a high of 17. What I can tell you for sure is, with this frigid conditions we're seeing approaching, I think be prepared for frosty nights.
Oh, not yet.
I just want to say that. Right.
Boo.
For frosty nights.
I was watching national news this morning on the CBC, you guys, and they were saying, get the snow brush and put it in the back of your car.
I was about to take my jacket today, and I saw the little scrubby thing from my windshield, and I'm like, I'm just going to toss this in the car because it's going to start getting frosty. So I don't want to do any defrosting this.
I'm staying optimistic.
The one thing I did do yesterday was turn off the tap on the side of my house and take the hose off.
Oh, you're there. I'm way behind this year.
I'm really nervous about it freezing up every time.
I just sunk right into that. It was 28 on Saturday or whatever it was, and pretended it's not October 1st today. So, all right, it could catch up with all of us. It is fall. What's going on in the commute, Corey?
Yeah, it's been a very quiet commute overall. Did hear from Dan on a bike who says it's still a lovely bike ride out there despite it being a little bit chillier. He did say some of the streetlights in North Fort Garry area are out right now, so it might be a little darker than you're used to, so heads up there. Other than that, if you do see something else going on, if you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call. Let me know what you're seeing. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
6:40 a.m. is the time right now on InfoRad, and it's time for Phil Demont to join us with our business report. Hi there, Phil.
Hi, Marcy.
So you have a story this morning about spoofing, it's called, and why the TD Bank is paying a big fine for doing this. Can you explain it?
Yeah, it's been a couple bad months for the TD. It already put aside $2.6 billion for potential fines from U.S. authorities surrounding the bank's inability to track illegal money transactions. In August, TD paid out $38 million to American regulators for giving out basically inaccurate information on its customers to credit rating agencies, one of 26 banks, I think, that had this problem. Now it's forking over $20 million to the U.S. Department of Justice. This time it's for spoofing. In the financial world, spoofing is a term for when you place an order to buy a stock or a bond, but you never have any intention of completing the order. Now, the rest of the market sees buy orders, and that kind of, people are buying it. They're interested in the stock, the bond. I better jump on the train, that kind of idea. So they think it's gaining value when, in fact, nothing's happening. In TD's case, its head of an American securities unit entered hundreds of orders for U.S. Treasury bills, but then canceled them before they were completed. It's an illegal practice, but surprisingly common, at least when I looked into it. 2016, the Bank of Nova Scotia was fined $60 million after 4 traders who specialized in precious minerals were discovered to be spoofing between 2008 and 2016. These things are multi-year. A couple of years ago, the Bank of America paid $24 million for more than 700 spoofing incidents, but the granddaddy of them all, J.P. Morgan, paid $920 million for entering fake buy orders between 2008 and 2016. The problem they faced was the fact that when you brought in, monitoring programs, they were actually looking for algorithms, just computers just firing these orders off again. When people started entering them manually, they didn't catch them because it just wasn't set up for that rate.
Let's go to another story this morning. What can the market for car loans tell us about the economy?
Yeah, it's an indication of how long it takes for interest rate cuts to work their way through the economy. American story, but it's got a Canadian warning. The U.S. Federal Reserve cut interest rates 0.5 percentage point in September, bigger than expected. But the American market for car loans is still bumping along the floor. That's because rates for vehicle loans remain historically high. Right now, more than 9.5% for a new car, 14% for a used car or truck, and it's hurting the demand for autos. Stellantis, which owns Chrysler, just cut its sales guidance for this year. Volkswagen did something similar last week. But it's also driving up the number of people who have car loans but are falling behind those payments. One reason for the sticky rates for car loans is that what you pay tends to follow the yield of the 10-year bond. Now, when the Fed cuts or the Bank of Canada cuts, it's actually cutting short-term rates. And what it hopes is that leaks into the longer-term financing market. But the market for longer bonds acted differently this time around. In fact, the interest rate for the U.S. 10-year bond went up, not down. After the Federal Reserve reduction, it should have gone the other way. You should have had bond prices going up, interest rates going down. It's not like the rates going up with a bullet. It's only up like 10 basis points, 16 basis points. But the question for the market is why? Some analysts believe the rise is for technical trading reasons. Others, though, wonder whether doubt is creeping into the market about the U.S. economy's long-term viability, especially when you stare at budget deficits, whether it's the Biden presidency or a potential Trump presidency. There's a lot of borrowing out there, and that always makes the market nervous.
And finally, here's a question that you told me to pose, because I don't know how you're going to answer it. Full radio disclosure, folks. Yeah, exactly. How can you tell? You'll know this is Phil. How can you tell when the cryptocurrency market is entering the twilight zone?
Yeah, cue music. It's when Mu Deng has her own cryptocurrency. Who is Mu Deng, you ask?
Yeah.
It's a pygmy hippopotamus that lives in a zoo in Thailand. Born in July, became famous after her keeper began posting videos of the ultra-cute hippo on social media. More than 2.5 million followers on TikTok. In fact, they answered a poll to name the hippo because in Thai, Mu Deng means bouncy pork. And of course, last month, a Mu Deng crypto coin began trading on exchanges like Radium. And you could have made a bunch of money if you jumped in fast enough. That's because the currency was up 90% in the first 24 hours of trading, 1,400% since getting greenlit on September 10th. Reportedly, one trader turned $800 of Mu Deng tokens into $3.5 million. But this is a market that tends to soar and crash. It's kind of like it's a little bit of a comedy market in one sense, just because of the names of the tokens. So the Mu Deng token lost 15% of its value yesterday, but it's only worth 22 cents. So if it's up 90% the first day, it's 5 to 9 cents, that kind of thing. But it's kind of interesting that now you have a hippopotamus with her own token.
What's going on in the markets this morning?
Boring generally, but mostly up. UK, Germany up more than 0.5%, France down marginally. Shanghai, Hong Kong, they're closed to celebrate the revolution's 7th anniversary over in China. Nikkei in Japan was up almost 1.5%. Oil's down 52 cents, $67.65 a barrel, and the Canadian dollar down 0.1 cent, 73.83 cents U.S.
All right. Thanks very much, Phil.
Thanks, Marcy.
From our business desk, that's Phil DeMont. 8 degrees and clear in Winnipeg. That's your downtown temperature. It's 4 at the Forks. 4 at the airport. Brandon is partly cloudy, 2 degrees this morning. Thompson's also clear and 2 with that night sky shot of the fall. We just had gorgeous skies this fall. Well, yesterday, under that beautiful sky and on a windy day, thousands of Manitobans wearing orange were walking through the streets, and many gathering at the RBC Convention Centre for the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. After a healing walk through our city, there was a powwow, drumming, and speeches, much of it captured on a special edition of Up to Speed yesterday afternoon on CBC. CBC's Faith Fundell and the team were live down at the Convention Centre. We also caught part of what Premier Wab Kinew had to say to the crowd.
Orange Shirt Day is now a stat holiday in Manitoba. And that means that every child, every parent, every family has the time today to honor the survivors, honor the parents left behind, honor the children who never came home, and then for the rest of the day, spend some time with the people that you love, the people that you care about, and enjoy that which was taken from previous generations in the past. Our country is moving forward. Our province is moving ahead, and it is being led by the survivors and the youth of our communities. And so to young people, I want to tell you to keep your language strong. Make your body strong. Make your mind strong. Make your spirit strong. Wear your hair long. And when you do that, you will make the survivors proud, because you'll be proving that the people who started residential schools failed in what they were trying to do. And you will make the survivors proud because you will show that what they stood up for, what they fought for, and what they persevered for generations succeeded and lived on right to today. So I said thank you to the survivors. I said an encouraging word to the young people. And to everybody in between, if you're not wearing regalia today, it's never too late to start dancing powwow. And so to people from all backgrounds, whether you're non-Indigenous, Indigenous, I hope that you were inspired by the stories of the survivors and how they have led our country on a positive path. And to young people from all generations, I want you to go out, go to school, make the most of your lives, and be successful, because that's how we're going to ensure that we live up to that phrase. Let's say it all together now. Every child.
Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew speaking in front of a crowd at the RBC Convention Centre yesterday for the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. It was the first time that it was marked as a statutory holiday in Manitoba.
The CBC News app delivers the answers you want to know and need to know.
What an extraordinary scene.
The breaking stories that shape your world. Reporting from the scene onto your screens.
Dropping the 8 now. We're just approaching Gaza.
Your source for mobile news. Delivered when you want, where you want.
This situation has changed very quickly.
The CBC News app. Download for free.
Well, today there's going to be another non-confidence vote in the House of Commons. It's the second attempt by the Conservatives to bring down the government. All signs indicate the Liberals will survive again. Last week's non-confidence motion by the official opposition also went by the wayside. But the Bloc Québécois has made it clear the Liberals must meet their demands by October 29th. Or risk an early election. The Bloc also put forward some ideas yesterday that we're going to talk about, which is to raise the age of old age security. To that end, before we turn our attention to Ryan Tumulty, I want to just read two quick comments that you wrote to us on this National Seniors Day. Jacqueline Castle Kramer wrote in, a national pharmacare program is what I need to improve my life as a senior in Manitoba. Too many I know are having to make hard decisions between food and the medications they need. And Jane Hebden wrote in, an increase in OAS and the GIS, the majority of seniors struggle constantly to afford food, rent, and medication. So Ryan Tumulty is in to talk politics with us, parliamentary reporter with the National Post. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just think it's interesting that right away when we asked on National Seniors Day, in our province, what do you need? People are writing about, their finances. Before we go to the non-confidence vote, can we just talk about what the Bloc leader put forward? He said that he wants to raise old age security by 10% for seniors between the ages of 65 and 74. It's a private member's bill. What more do we know, and what could it cost, Ryan?
Yeah, so this bill has actually been studied by the Parliamentary Budget Officer. He pegged its cost at $16 billion, just over $16 billion over the course of 5 years. So not cheap. The Liberals boosted old age security for seniors over 75. The theory was at the time that seniors over that age maybe have started to run out of their savings and need that extra support, but seniors younger than that, not as much. I think this is politically a challenge for the government. The government has really been focusing on the idea that people who are in Gen Z or millennials are the ones who need the financial boost. They're the ones who need support right now, not seniors. And so to turn around and give $16 billion to seniors, I think would politically be tricky for the government. I hear the stories that you're telling. I know there are lots of seniors who are struggling, but demographically and overall, seniors have among the lowest rates of poverty in this country. So I think this is really, it's an economic challenge for the government because of the cost. It's also a political one with the message that they've been sending.
It's interesting because you're right about the rates of poverty, and I was looking up that stat this morning. But earlier this hour, we had an interview about an increasing number of seniors slipping into poverty. So I guess the trend is that people are, those numbers are increasing, but still the overall number is low. So you're right; those political decisions we'll have to see, what the parties in Ottawa are going to do with all of this. Let's talk about the non-confidence vote now happening today. How much political theater do you expect here?
I expect a lot of political theater, frankly, because there isn't much drama in the outcome of the vote. The NDP and the Bloc have been clear they're not going to vote to bring down the government on this, at least. I suspect we'll see some speeches. I suspect we'll see some news conferences where the Conservatives will denounce the other opposition parties. But I'm not expecting the government to fall today.
Let's actually return to Yves-François Blanchet, who has another bill that he wants passed. It's Bill C-282. This would exempt the supply-managed farm sectors from any future trade negotiations, and it's actually this one in the Senate, while the other one might be tough to move forward. So what's the likelihood, do you think, that this is going to pass, and can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, well, it's a private member's bill, so it doesn't get priority in the Senate. And there are a lot of senators with a lot of concerns about it. So, supply management is this system we have in Canada for a few agricultural sectors, dairy being one of the big ones. And it sets levels and quotas for dairy farmers. And the idea is that dairy farmers can make a sustainable living and prices are stable, that sort of thing. But there are lots of critics who say that it drives up costs for consumers and that not letting foreign, dairy into the country is an issue. And certainly this is something that comes up in a lot of trade deals. This is something that, is regularly brought up when Canada is negotiating trade deals. Both Liberal and Conservative governments have opened up Canada's supply management system a little bit during previous negotiations. When they do that, they tend to, make compensation payments to dairy farmers for any sort of market share that they're losing. But this is something that comes up in basically every trade deal that Canada negotiates. So there are senators over there whose past job was trade negotiator and who are saying that, this would be a big problem for Canada. So there's certainly a lot of skepticism about the bill over in the Senate. I don't know how much pressure the Liberals can put on the Senate to pass this bill, even if they wanted to, which I'm not necessarily sure they do.
Just last, I had mentioned that the Bloc Québécois has, made it clear for the Liberals that they have to meet their demands by October 29th to survive, as a government, given that this, non-confidence vote will continue to come up. What do you make of a date being thrown down? How much pressure will that put on the Liberals?
It puts a lot of pressure on because it's not a lot of time. You're talking only about 3 weeks in the House of Commons to move these bills forward if that's what the government wants to do. If the government doesn't want to do that, then and the Bloc hold to their demands, then suddenly the Liberals are down to just one potential negotiating partner. They're back to the NDP again. And I'm not necessarily sure the NDP will be that inclined to negotiate over everything. I think they're feeling a lot of pressure. Having pulled out of the supply and confidence deal, there are people who would very much like them to go the next step. So I think it will be a challenge for the Liberals. And certainly, the fewer negotiating partners they have in Parliament, the harder this gets for them, and the more likely we are to see an election.
All right, Ryan, it's going to be a month. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's Ryan Tumulty, parliamentary reporter with the National Post. It is 3 minutes exactly to 7 a.m. Heather Wells is in with our October 1st, Tuesday morning headlines.
Good morning. Well, a Manitoba medical resident is urging the province to offer financial incentives to new doctors. Other provinces, Ontario and Saskatchewan, do offer contract agreements. Manitoba did once back in 2017, but hasn't done it since. Dr. Stephen Irving is in his first year of medical residency, and he wants to work in northern Manitoba where he's from, but he needs help with student debt. He's written to the province, but his request was denied. We'll hear more. Starting today, Manitobans can access more than 60 birth control products with a prescription for free. The pill, intrauterine devices, and hormone injections are among the options now covered. We'll hear more in our next local news at 7:30.
All right, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
The commute's been fine this morning so far. Call us if not, and we're missing something, please. 788-3093. Weather-wise, it's 8 degrees in downtown Winnipeg. It is 4 degrees at the airport, and our high today is 17. It's going to be sunny, but once again, windy. Wind southwest 30 to 50 today in Winnipeg. And up north in Churchill, there is a wind warning as well. So that wind warning means your winds will gust to 90 km. Well, in the next hour of the show, at least there'll be wind to move the flag that will be raised at the legislature today for the very first time in Manitoba, the Nigerian flag. It's been 64 years since Nigeria first celebrated its independence from colonial rule. We're going to hear how the community is marking the day in addition to the flag raising. Also today on the program after 7, we're going to take you back to a report we explored last week about diabetic leg amputation rates across Canada, and it showed that in very remote Manitoba communities, amputation rates were 7 times higher than urban centres. Today we talked to the executive director of the National Indigenous Diabetes Association about this, who says diabetes patients in remote First Nations simply deserve better care. And we'll have more on the story Heather just mentioned about that new med school grad who's calling on the province to offer doctors more cash, new cash, to stay in Manitoba. And this, as she said in our headlines, was a program we used to have. So we'll hear more about that. Right now, though, it's time to turn our attention to national and international news. World Report is next at 7. Stay with us.
He kept cars quiet.
We fix your muffler expertly.
He got saucy about chicken.
There's always value in a visit.
And he was concerned about curves.
You want to be sure about the way you look and the way that people look at you.
How Jerry Goodis made an advertisement a beautiful thing on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly. Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. Israel is closing beaches and limiting public gatherings. The military says it is for the public's safety. Hezbollah rockets are targeting Israel, and Israel's military says its troops are on the ground in southern Lebanon. It is warning people in 30 border villages to evacuate immediately. Sasha Petrusik is following developments in Jerusalem.
With rockets from Hezbollah shooting overhead, Israel's commandos moved into Lebanon overnight in a limited ground invasion, says military spokesman Daniel Hagari.
These localized ground raids will target Hezbollah strongholds that threaten Israeli towns, kibbutzim, and communities along our border.
The Iran-backed Hezbollah vows it's ready to fight, with already reports of fierce confrontations. Israeli airstrikes also continue to hit Beirut and southern Lebanon, killing at least 95 people since yesterday, say local health officials. Lebanese Independent Member of Parliament Najat Saliba says people are angry and afraid.
It's really a country invading another country, and the destruction is like one thing after another, never stops, and the killing is not stopping either.
Former British National Security Advisor Peter Rickett says this new phase could also be dangerous for Israel.
If guerrilla fighting develops and they're facing Hezbollah fighters hardened in the battles in Syria, they may well find that it's difficult to do these very short-term, go in quickly, pull out quickly kind of raids.
Indeed, Israel has been stuck fighting in Lebanon for years in previous wars. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
We have gone from thousands to 500,000 troops on high readiness.
Jens Stoltenberg signing off after 10 years as Secretary General of NATO. He ended his term with a speech emphasizing the alliance's growing military strength over the years. Stoltenberg is handing over to former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. He got a head start at convincing member countries to further increase their defense spending.
We must deliver on the package agreed at the Washington summit. The command, the financial pledge, and Ukraine's irreversible path to membership. And we must sustain this support into the future, because Ukraine's rightful place is in NATO.
Rutte says along with safeguarding strength, stepping up support for Ukraine is a top priority. 3 apparent ISIS supporters will appear in a Brampton courtroom today, and they will be sentenced for murder. In 2021, they went on a shooting rampage inside a family-owned restaurant. 1 man was killed. Several more were injured. As Thomas Daigle reports, a judge will now decide whether terrorism was a factor.
I don't think you know what you're doing here.
Audio recordings played in court highlight the growing hostility in 2021 between business owner Nakash Abbasi and his former associate Naeem Akil.
And you just don't want to show up to work like now.
Well, I'm leaving you and giving you 20 bands. What more do you want?
Abbasi then orchestrated a shooting in a Mississauga, Ontario chicken takeout restaurant owned by Akil's family, killing the 25-year-old and wounding 4 others. At trial, the Crown's key witness testified there was more to it than a business dispute, but rather the 3 killers targeted Akil because he was planning to tell authorities about their support for the listed terrorist group ISIS. Crown Attorney Brian Maguire.
Jury obviously saw it the way we did, and we're very happy for that, and we're very sad for the Akil family, but they're satisfied that I think justice was done.
Now convicted of first-degree murder and attempted murder, the ringleader, the gunman, and the getaway driver are each bound to face a life sentence. And today, if the judge finds the attackers were motivated by terrorism, it could hurt their chances of getting parole after 25 years behind bars. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
McGill University's law professors have suspended their strike. Talks between the faculty union and the university stalled. McGill threatened to cancel the entire law semester. Classes are now back on, at least for this moment. The union says it is still working to get McGill to drop its legal challenge against its certification. In Calgary, members of the Blood Tribe are looking for answers. A member of their community died in police custody. Hundreds of people marched to honor John Wells on the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. The CBC's Aaron Collins was there.
My son! More hard steps on the long road to reconciliation. This walk, a somber one, marking the death of John Wells, a member of Alberta's Blood Tribe. Wells died in police custody on September 17th. The 42-year-old tackled, punched, and tasered by police at a Calgary hotel after being asked to leave.
We have sorrow, grief, loneliness, just wanting John to be here.
Wells' family, including his cousin Leslie Wells, questioning the tactics used by police.
We want to know, why was there so much force at the time of walking right in, and why was there so much force? Was there a reason for it?
The province's police watchdog is investigating the death. Alberta's Serious Incident Response Team says Wells had his hands raised and told officers, "I don't want to die." A Blood Tribe chief, Roy Fox, says too many Indigenous people do die at the hands of police.
The pain and death that our people suffer at the hands of authority, they are supposed to protect us.
John Wells is at least the 7th Indigenous person to die in Canada after interacting with police since August 29th. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Dock workers at 36 American ports began walking picket lines early this morning. 45,000 workers at ports from Maine to Texas are on strike. The contract between the U.S. Maritime Alliance and the Workers' Union expired at midnight. The two sides had not held formal negotiations since June. There are concerns prolonged job action could cause a rise in inflation and affect America's supply chain. 350 workers at Montreal's port walked off the job yesterday. That strike is expected to last until Thursday morning. The candidates for U.S. Vice President will debate tonight. Tim Walz and J.D. Vance will meet for their first and only time. The election is just 35 days away, so this may be one of their last big chances to win over Americans, especially those who are undecided. John V. Kane is with the Center for Global Affairs at New York University.
You have maybe 5 or 6% of the electorate still on the fence, still undecided. And little things could push them in one direction or another.
CBS is hosting the debate from New York. Unlike the presidential debates, both candidates' microphones will be kept on for the full 90 minutes. There will also be no live fact-checking by the moderators. The debate begins at 9 p.m. Eastern. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter turns 100 today. It is the first time an American president has lived a full century. The Democrat served as president from 1977 to 1981. He has been in hospice care for the past 19 months. Steve Futterman has more on Jimmy Carter's life and legacy.
This was Jimmy Carter's ultimate moment.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
January 1977, Carter became the 39th president, an unlikely rise for a man who at one time was a Georgia peanut farmer.
My name is Jimmy Carter, and I'm running for president.
Just 2 years earlier, Carter was so unknown that he made an appearance on a quiz show as the panelists tried to figure out who he was.
Is this anything to do with the world of fashion? No. 2 down, 8 to go, Donna.
Carter's 4-year presidency had a number of highlights, including the Camp David Accords, which brought together the leaders of Israel and Egypt to sign a peace treaty.
We are privileged to witness an achievement none thought possible.
But there were many more troubled moments, most prominently the Iran hostage crisis, with the U.S. unable seemingly to free its citizens.
We continue to face a grave situation in Iran.
Carter was decisively defeated in his bid for re-election by Ronald Reagan. In the 4 decades since leaving office, Carter has become a respected international statesman, traveling the globe, trying to promote democratic reform. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002.
We can choose to alleviate suffering, to work together for peace.
While there have been many critics of Carter as president, as a former president, he has received almost universal acclaim. And today he becomes the first to reach 100. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Los Angeles.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, a clear start to the month of October, but it's going to be windy once again. Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Welcome to the show this morning. You're on Information Radio on CBC 89.3 FM. Or on YouTube this morning, you might be watching. This hour on the program, we're going to talk more about a recent report that came out. We explored it last week. It was all about diabetic leg amputation rates in Canada. So in case you missed the start of this, the data showed that in very remote Manitoba communities, amputation rates are 7 times higher than urban centers. Today, we talked to the executive director of the National Indigenous Diabetes Association, who says, frankly, diabetes patients in remote First Nations deserve better care. So stay tuned for the interview. Also, the Nigerian flag will be raised at the Legislative Building this morning in commemoration of the Nigerian Independence Day. We're going to talk to the president of the Nigerian Association of Manitoba at 7:40 about what that means, given this is the first time it's happened in our province that it's been marked in this official way. So stay tuned for that. That's at 7:40. Right now, Heather Wells is in with other developments and news, and there's lots going on. Hi, Heather.
Good morning. Yes. Lack of daycare space has forced a blind newcomer to Winnipeg to put his career on hold. We're going to hear from Oluwatomi Waziri, who was robbed and attacked by armed bandits in Nigeria 5 years ago. He now is completely blind. Waziri and his family moved to Winnipeg last November, but a long wait list for daycare has impacted his career plans, forcing him to become a stay-at-home dad. We'll hear more. And Manitoba's minimum wage goes up today, 50 cents higher to $15.80 an hour. The hike follows a formula set in provincial law tied to the rate of inflation in the previous calendar year. More on that story and others coming up in our next news at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
So how is that going to impact you? We'll take calls on that today. 788-3205. The increase in minimum wage. How will you be impacted? Is what we'll ask. Let's find out what's going on in the weather in some more detail. Here's Abby Adiemi.
It's going to be a sunny start across the province. Then we'll see some transition to cloudy conditions as we get into the day. Highs will vary with temperatures ranging from 5 in Churchill to 18 for Brandon and Morris. The morning will begin clear and then those clouds will roll in. Currently, Winnipeg, we are now at 7 degrees under these clear conditions. We will see the sun make its appearance and then some clouds will roll in as the day progresses. It will be breezy though, and we'll see temperatures peaking at 17 tonight. Up north, we're seeing clear skies in Thompson and that light rain still in Churchill. Brandon is now currently at -1, Marcy.
Oh, it happened. -1.
The frosty guy is here.
There it is. All right. Well, I'll cover the tomatoes, and we'll see what happens from here on in. And current temp in Winnipeg here once again, Abby?
We are at 7, heading to a high of 17.
All right, let's get into what's going on in the commute. Corey.
Yeah, got a call from Water Truck Mike, who says he and his crew are doing some work today until Friday on Church Street between Milner and Bunting, and that's actually got that whole section of Church Street Church Avenue, going both ways, completely closed right now. So you're heading down Church, you hit Milner or Bunting, and it is closed. So just heads up for that. That's going to last until Friday. Thanks for that call, Mike. That's the only really major issue I've heard out there going on. But if you do see something, if you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
Time right now is 7:14 a.m. and let's begin with the story I was just mentioning. Recent research has been called deeply concerning by the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. I'm talking about the data from the Canadian Institute of Health Information, or CIHI, that showed that Manitobans living with diabetes are more likely to have a leg amputated than the average Canadian with the disease in this country. And in very remote communities, a term that applies to many Manitoba First Nations, for example, and just remote communities up north for any Manitoban, the rate is higher still. It's 7 times higher than in Manitoba's urban centres if you live more remotely. Erin Pecora was with us on Friday. She's a program lead with the population health team at CIHI. She worked on the report. Here's just a piece of what she said to set up our next discussion.
It was quite striking that over 40% of people experiencing an amputation are between the ages of 40 and 64. So these people are working age, they're relatively young. So to manage a foot ulcer or to recover from an amputation, this would really involve taking time off work. Having an amputation has a significant impact on quality of life and mobility, can also have a significant impact on mental health. So if people don't have the social support or the financial means to recover from an amputation, you can see how this would have a big impact on someone's life.
Celeste Theriault is our guest this morning, executive director of the National Indigenous Diabetes Association, or NIDA. She's a member of the Red River Métis Nation and lives here in Winnipeg. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks for being with us. So what did you make of this report when you first read it?
Well, of course, it's super concerning, and I think everyone, I think my inbox got really full when it got released because everyone wanted to talk about it and really wanted to make sure that we were rallying together to be able to bring attention and awareness to the report because, of course, the statistics that you mentioned and that others have mentioned are striking and are alarming, and work needs to be done around them.
When you think about the work that needs to be done, I understand a particular area of concern is that some of the funding for foot care and preventative care is not stable. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it's stable in terms that the communities know what they're getting, especially in First Nations. The problem is that we haven't seen a renewed in funding in a very long time. So people are running programs on funds that were maybe appropriate 10, 15 years ago and haven't adjusted for inflation, haven't adjusted for different health outcomes, and we're constantly trying to shed light to get a renewed investment in preventative programs, more specifically lower limb amputation, and also just healthier lifestyle programs that help reduce the rates of diabetes in general. And it's been very difficult to be able to move that needle forward to actually have programs that work effectively for our people and our nation.
What do you hear from folks about their experience dealing with diabetes? You said your inbox was full and trying to draw attention. Can you share some of the stories of what you hear from people?
Yeah, I think what we hear from people is that, they want better care and better access themselves. Many stories of individuals with either lower limb amputations or just who are struggling day to day with their diabetes is that diabetes is not just a one-off disease. It's going to lead to other complications if you don't manage it well. And many times they feel hopeless because maybe they're not the ones who have all the tools in place to be able to live the lifestyle that their provider wants them to live, or they don't have, access to the food or the medications that they need. And so there's a long way to go. And so most times people also talk about how they just simply didn't know that how a diabetic foot ulcer looked. And they weren't sure that that was normal or not. And then it kind of leads them down a path of, all of a sudden I'm in the hospital, and next thing you know, it's a little bit overwhelming, and I'm being treated for something that I wasn't sure what it was in the first place.
So we need education around it as well.
Oh, of course.
To reach people.
I think we are still at an education stage, regardless of where our programs and how they run in different kind of communities in northern Manitoba and in Canada in general. That education is still important. A lot of people don't want to talk about their diabetes. I think your interviewee on Friday from Kai mentioned mental health, mentioned how it impacts other areas of your life. And diabetes is not a disease that one person feels, even though that's the lived experience person. The family unit will also feel it because it's something that everyone needs to come together to support that individual so that they have the ability to manage their day-to-day because it's a full-time job.
I want to read you a quote here. Indigenous identity was not looked at specifically in this study, but many First Nations are very remote, of course, which was addressed in the study. Now, acting AMC Grand Chief Betsy Kennedy weighed in. She sent this statement, quote, "The findings of this report are deeply concerning and highlight the urgent need for systemic changes in healthcare delivery for First Nations people, reliable on-reserve primary care, health promotion programs, and stronger partnerships with the federal and provincial governments are essential to creating equitable access for our 63 First Nations. We must address these healthcare disparities head on to ensure the well-being of our people," end quote. And you're reiterating, much of that this morning in your comments. When you look at our province, Manitoba has some of the most stark statistics in the report. Why do you think that is?
Well, we actually have some of the most stark statistics with type 2 diabetes, more specifically. So when we look at the amputation rates and then the diabetes rates, there is a correlation of we do have significantly higher diabetes rates in Manitoba and I'm talking Indigenous diabetes rates, so First Nations, Métis, Inuit, with the First Nations in our northern remote areas being disproportionately affected. And there are many reasons for that, and I think our social determinants of health, as well as the structural barriers and the systemic barriers that AMC Acting Grand Chief talked about, as well as the food sovereignty and just food deserts in general. And then we talked about it, clean drinking water, primary care access, and being able to go to a provider when you need it. That's not the case in many of our remote northern nations.
What impact can an amputation have on someone's life, especially in a remote community?
Well, I think it's devastating because if you think about it, we don't always have the infrastructure to be accessible. And so in the first kind of phases of having an amputation, you're not going to get a prosthetic leg right away. So you will spend some time in a wheelchair. That's hard even just in our urban center of Winnipeg, especially going from not having a mobility reduction to having it. So I think that is something that's really, really difficult. Another thing is the amount of shame and guilt that individual carries about how, oh, I could have done better or things of the sort. And then it kind of brings them a little bit of turmoil at first before they start building up the resiliency to be able to say, okay, I have the supports in place to be able to manage this moving forward, to be able to get fitted for a prosthetic, and then to be able to get a quality of life back to some sort of standard than what it was before.
Thank you very much, Celeste, for this morning. Appreciate having you on.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks for the work that you guys do. We need more support and more attention to this, but together we'll definitely make things happen and make sure that it's not just about the numbers, it's people's lives, and we owe it to all of our families, friends, and future generations to make sure that we have what we need in our First Nations communities for support.
Take care.
Have a good one.
Celeste Theriault, Executive Director of the National Indigenous Diabetes Association. She's a member of the Red River Métis Nation, lives here in Winnipeg. We have reached out to the provincial government for comment on the Kai-Hai report. They responded Friday saying they need some more time, and we will follow up with them later today. It is 7:23 a.m. It's 7 degrees in Winnipeg. Our high today is 17. Winds will be gusty once again. Over in Brandon, it's dipped down to -1. Well, speaking of which, we have music for the fall. CBCmusic.ca has a 10-track ode to autumn, and that's where this tune comes from. This one's by Shred Kelly. It's called Dead Leaves.
Let's play broken telephone. Make me feel so not alone. Pick a side and play the part. Dead leaves from the start. Another trip around the sun. A window view to everyone. I think it's getting kind of warm. So smile, take the world by storm. Yeah.
Shred Kelly. This tune's called Dead Leaves. It's on CBC Music Songs to Fall in Love With, or maybe in the case of these lyrics, fall out of love with. You can check out cbcmusic.ca if you're building your list for this cool weather music season. It's kind of a good season. Hey, Scott, to put on some headphones and snuggle under a cover and,
I'm starting to head there. I'm getting out of the summer mode and into the, under the covers with headphones time.
Yeah, it's happening. Well, if you are not listening to music, maybe you're following sports. Let's start with soccer and an important result for Valor FC last night, right?
Right. Well, I mean, they haven't made the playoffs in their club's short history, but given what we saw last night at Princess Audio Stadium against Pacific FC, there's reason to believe the Winnipeg side might just do that, make the postseason. So 75 minutes of back and forth play, albeit without any goals, until...
Short ball for Antonobu, leading towards the back post and an own goal! Kevin Cesare goes to ground and puts it in his own net!
As you heard there on One Soccer, Pacific Central defender Kevin Cesare scored in his own net off of a cross by Valor's Themi Antonoglu. So end result, 1-0 Winnipeg. So Valor in a position where they're 1 point out of a playoff spot with 3 matches left to go. But after a lousy start to this season, Marcy, they didn't win in their first 4 games. They're now unbeaten in their past 5, so they're peaking at just the right time, it appears.
Apparently that's what we like to do in Winnipeg. Them, the Bombers, right?
Yeah, I see a bit of that going on, yeah.
Start slow. Let's move to baseball. There's big news on and away from the field as well.
Right. On it, Marcy, all of the wild card series get underway today. While off it, one of the game's greats has died.
2-1 pitch from Shaw into left center. There it is! Rose has eclipsed Cobb.
That's the sound of Pete Rose surpassing Ty Cobb's major league record for hits in a career, an achievement that would have made Rose a first-ballot Hall of Famer had an MLB investigation not revealed that he bet on his sport, including on his own team. Rose passed away yesterday at the age of 83. He had been asked previously, Marcy, about whether he should be inducted into Cooperstown posthumously.
For a player to go into his or her Hall of Fame, it's more or less for your family and it's more or less for your fan base. And I'm big on both of those two things right there. The people who rooted for me my whole career would love to see me in the Hall of Fame as a living player, not as someone who's 10 feet under. What good would it do my family if they put me in the Hall of Fame after I die?
As plain-spoken as he was hard-nosed, some would say hard-headed, I fell in love with baseball, Marcy, as a kid watching Rose, a.k.a. Charlie Hustle, lead Cincinnati's Big Red Machine to multiple World Series. His nickname came from his very aggressive style that saw him sprint, not saunter to first base, even when he got walked. Love him or loathe him, there might never be another player like Pete Rose.
It's a really good doc we just watched, actually. I don't know how old it is or new it is, but it was on in our house. And the man's a gambler, though. Like, it was just, you're watching the doc. It was very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
At any rate, let's finish with basketball here. That sport is also in mourning.
Yes, over the loss of Dikembe Mutombo, one of the NBA's greatest ever defenders and one of its greatest ever philanthropists. Mutombo died Monday from brain cancer, aged just 58. The news hit Raptors president Masai Ujiri especially hard.
You cannot even imagine what that guy has done for me in my career. He took me by the wings in Denver and made me grow as a person. There's nobody that Mutombo did not touch. Everything you see as big as he is, his heart was bigger. Today is not a good day, but we'll celebrate him, and we'll celebrate him big, big.
And Masai Ujiri worked closely with Mutombo when they were with the Denver Nuggets. He is an executive, Mutombo is a player, but mostly they worked together as forefront figures for Basketball Without Borders and Giants of Africa. A giant in the basketball and sporting world lost yesterday, 2 of them, really.
All right. Thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Every morning, Scott Regehr joins us with Morning Sports here on CBC. Well, yesterday, downtown was full of people dressed in orange, and today you're likely to see people dressed in Ankara and all kinds of colors because it's an exciting day for our Nigerian community. It's been 64 years since Nigeria first celebrated its independence from colonial rule. They're going to raise the flag at the legislature for the first time ever officially, and that's happening at 8 o'clock, but not before we talk to a community member who will be in studio with us right after your 7:30 news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is clear and 7 degrees, a little chilly out there. We're going to warm up above seasonal for October 1st, a high of 17, but still windy in Winnipeg today. A Manitoba medical resident is urging the province to offer financial incentives to new doctors. Other provinces like Ontario and Saskatchewan do offer contract agreements. Manitoba did once in 2017, but hasn't since. Dr. Stefan Irvin is in his first year of medical residency. He wants to work in northern Manitoba, where he's from, but needs help with his student debt. He wrote a letter to the province asking for incentives to be offered here again. Irvin included the names of 30 colleagues who he says are seeking or negotiating deals with other provinces. But his request was denied.
Quite shocked. We keep hearing about these 400 doctors they want to hire over so many years, the 100 doctors they're trying to hire this year. And to me, it really felt like I was handing them, amongst with my other co-residents and some medical students, we were handing them so many of those doctors who are ready and willing to stay in Manitoba.
Now, Manitoba's health minister says they appreciate the financial challenges of physicians in training. Uzoma Esiguera says the government provides help throughout a doctor's career, financial and otherwise.
It's not necessarily just about the dollars and cents. It's really about that connection you can make on site in communities to ensure that, for example, your family is able to access childcare, that your kids can go to a good school, that you can be mentored by physicians and peers.
Manitoba has the second lowest physician rate in the country, according to the Canadian Institute for Health Research. It has 215 doctors per 100,000 people. That is below the national average of 247. Well, starting today, Manitobans can access more than 60 birth control products with a prescription for free. The pill, intrauterine devices, and hormone injections are among the options now covered. Kemlyn Nemhard at Women's Health Clinic in Winnipeg says cost has always been a barrier to accessing birth control.
1 month of pills is anywhere from $30 to $40. If you're looking at IUDs, that can be up to $500, right? And other forms can be even more expensive. So that can be really cost prohibitive. And then people end up having to make uncomfortable choices because they can't afford their birth control.
When it announced the coverage, the province estimated it will cost roughly $11 million a year. Well, the House of Commons is expected to get all fired up again today when the Bloc Québécois call for a debate about increasing old age pension payments for all seniors. Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet has given the governing Liberals until October 29th to approve the $16 billion cost of his party's pension bill, or he's threatening to open talks with other opposition parties to bring down the minority Liberal government. The Conservatives will take another shot at toppling the government this afternoon when MPs vote on another non-confidence motion. Calling it a limited, localized ground operation, the Israeli military says it is targeting Hezbollah strongholds today in southern Lebanon. The Israeli military says its ground forces crossed into southern Lebanon overnight. It marks a significant escalation of Israel's ongoing offensive against Hezbollah militants. You can hear the latest on this story, as well as other national and international news, coming up on World Report at 8. Lack of daycare space has forced a blind newcomer to Winnipeg to put his career on hold. Oluwatomi Waziri was robbed and attacked by armed bandits in Nigeria 5 years ago. He now is blind. Waziri and his family moved to Winnipeg last November. A long wait list for daycare has impacted his career plans, forcing him to become a stay-at-home dad.
Ever since we came to Canada, that was one of our major, the first thing we wanted to achieve, like getting childcare for our kids, so just so we can start a life, myself and my wife, start my career, start building up myself.
Waziri says he's applied to about 10 daycare centres. He's on wait lists for most, and some have not called back. The province says it is trying to deal with the shortages of daycare space. And if you earn minimum wage in Manitoba, you get a raise today. Manitoba's minimum wage is going up 50 cents to $15.80 an hour. The hike follows a formula set in provincial law tied to the rate of inflation from the previous year. BC has the highest minimum wage of all the provinces at $17.40 an hour. Saskatchewan and Alberta have the lowest minimum pay at $15. You can find more news updated throughout your day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
It is 7:36 a.m. and Abby's in with our regional forecast now. Abby, what do we know?
A mix of sun and clouds across the province. That's what we'll be seeing. Breezy conditions in most of the locations. Winnipeg currently still at 7 degrees. We're going to see sunny skies this morning. Then some clouds will roll in as we get into the afternoon period. We're looking at a high of just 17 today. We won't be touching that 20s for a very long time. Brandon currently at -1, mostly clear. You're going to be warming up later as the sun comes up, and then you warm up to 18 degrees. Thompson is sitting at 2 degrees and clear at this time. You will definitely be warming up to about 10 later in the day. Churchill currently seeing a light rain all morning. You're at 4 degrees. A wind warning is in effect. This breezy condition will stay with that region for most of the day. That will taper off later, leading to high of just 5 degrees. Dauphin is at 5, clear, heading to 17, and Gimli 4 degrees, heading to a high of 15, and Steinbach and Morris hovering between 5 and 3 degrees at this point, both heading to a high of 17. Right now, Winnipeg, we are at 7.
I thought you might come in with some puff puff for us today, like to celebrate Nigerian Independence Day.
We'll do puff puff on Friday, but today's more about the jollof fries and the amala.
Nice. How do you feel about the day, Abby? How are you reflecting on it?
Yeah, when that memo came sometime in June, I was excited about it, knowing that the province would be recognizing this, because it's something I've been watching from far away. Like, if you look at the New York, this time every year in New York, about 4,000 Nigerians come together to celebrate this big day, and it's recognized there. So I was like, okay, now this is a big one for us, looking at how far we've come from, the pre-independence, post-independence, the Civil War, and 64 years later, still standing strong together, and the country is still staying strong.
We have a full interview about this coming up, but who will you think about personally as the flags raised today then?
I will think about my parents, my grandparents, and my great-grandparent that told me about the history of that entity called Nigeria.
Well said. All right, let's get into the morning commute just briefly before we turn our attention to the interview. Hi, Corey.
Hi. Yeah, Church Avenue really is the only issue I heard of so far. Got a call from Water Truck Mike, who's actually working in that area, and they've actually got Church Avenue closed between Milner and Bunting both ways, and that's expected to last until Friday. So heads up there. If you're heading down Church Avenue, you just can't between Milner and Bunting. So look out for that. If you see anything else going on, though, be like Mike. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right. Thank you, Corey Funk.
Thank you.
22 minutes to 8 o'clock on Tuesday, October the 1st. And yes, Nigeria first celebrated its independence from colonial rule on October 1st in 1960. And here we are 64 years later, and the Manitoba government has officially introduced a bill to commemorate Nigerian Independence Day in our province. The announcement was made by Health and Seniors and Long-Term Care Minister Uzoma Asagwera, whose parents are from Nigeria. So today's the day. And to mark it, the Nigerian green and white flag is going to be raised at the Legislative Building at 8 o'clock, so just really minutes from now. So I'm very grateful my next guest before she heads over there is here in studio with us. Vera Obehi Kahiyede is the president of the Nigerian Association of Manitoba. Hi there.
Hi, Marcy. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I have long time always heard your voice over the radio.
Oh, that's really kind. Nice. So as you were listening to Avi reflect on what Nigerian Independence Day means to him, I saw you sort of listening and nodding. What does it mean to you, Vera?
Nigerian independence is a story of resilience, and the theme of our year is our history and our beauty. That just reminds us of the struggle of a country, a struggle of liberation, and a struggle for self-governance, a struggle of unwavering determination for united and a sovereign nation. And coming today was the first time that the Nigerian flag will be raised in Manitoba. I am just overwhelmed with excitement and with a sense of fulfillment that the struggle continues. We'll continue, to be the resilient people. We'll continue to be people, the value integrity, continue people that are strong.
What does that recognition mean to you as a Manitoban to see the flag go up today?
That just seeing the flag of Nigeria goes up just remind me as an individual of the victory the founding leaders of Nigeria started 64 years ago, and the continuous victory. And that also shows me, remind me of the contributions of Nigerians to this economy. Nigerians, we are very hardworking people, resilient, and everywhere we go, we don't just stay there. We contribute. We make impacts. So saying that is reminding us as a people that we continue to make impacts and we will not relent in contributing our quarter to the province and to the city of Winnipeg.
What do you have lined up for events? Because the flag raising is just one thing that's happening, right? There's things coming up on the weekend, I understand.
Right. The flag raising is at 8:30 this morning. Then we have another gathering at the Ledge for 11:30, to commemorate, to celebrate with the elders of the community and few others. Then on the 5th of October is going to be the big party.
Saturday.
Nigerians, we are very loud people. I'm just trying to remind myself I'm a radio.
It's okay. You get excited. It's okay. Abby will control your volume. He's got you.
It's going to be get together with everybody, with the community celebrating the independence. There's going to be cultural display, and there's going to be music. There's going to be food, and there's going to be everybody's going to come out in their best attire, and on top of that, on the 5th, to be giving out 7 scholarships to deserving Nigerian students. This is the thing the Nigerian community has been doing for a few years now. So on that day, we'll be giving a scholarship to 7 deserving students from the Nigerian community.
Are they at high school level students, or how old are the students?
We have high school, and also we have those in the university, and even those doing their postgraduate.
What's the importance of education culturally how do you explain that?
Oh my God, Nigerians, we are highly educated. Education is one thing that no Nigerian parent want to tell with. I'll just give you an example of myself. They will kind of tell you have to read, you have to study, you have to study. Some people think I'm crazy. I'm a chartered accountant, I'm a CPA. I'm also a chartered supply chain management. I have my NCMP. You kind of like, what's she up to? What next, right? We are people that continuously, we just want to learn. We know there's so much to learn. And that is why in every field of study across the globe, you will find Nigerians excelling. They're not just there, as part of it. They are there excelling, contributing, and making meaningful impact in every facet of global stage.
I admire that tenacity toward education.
Yeah.
I love that you're giving out these scholarships.
Yeah.
It must mean so much to the young people.
Yes, and it makes so much to us. Like back home when we're growing up, or if you want to know, I'm in my late 40s, growing up, your parents want you to become a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. So you have to study. You don't have a choice,
What do you hope that fellow Manitobans who aren't Nigerian take away from today, what they understand about the importance of Nigerian Independence Day?
Today is a day for us to revisit our history. Come to know us. So I would like to make reference to yesterday, which is the Truth and Reconciliation Day. Just like the Orange Day. When you say the Orange Day, you see people in their orange shirts. It kind of brings awareness, to the history, to the past, and that kind of guide us in our present, in our future. With what is happening today, people will start to know more about Nigeria, know our history, know our struggle, and know who we are as people.
I cannot let you go without telling the radio listeners who aren't on YouTube how beautiful you look dressed for this celebration.
Thank you.
Stunning. And chosen intentionally, because that's the Nigerian flag colors maybe, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I kept this choice for today.
I love it. Beautiful. Am I saying it right? You're Geli and you're Ankara.
Thank you. Yes.
Beautiful.
And this Ankara is called Adure. And in Nigeria, the southwest, there is a place called Abeokuta. And this is what they are known for. They make the Adure in the fabric. So, and my husband is from Abeokuta, so I decided to go back to...
Gorgeous. So the fabric is actually representative of your husband's roots in Nigeria.
Right.
Yeah. Gorgeous. I know you're heading to the ledge for the flag raising. Thank you for making time for CBC.
Thank you so much for having us. And I am inviting all of us to our Nigerian Independence on the 5th celebration. You can get tickets on Eventbrite. We want to see everybody. Come know who we are. Come just celebrate. We are people of fun. Like they say in Nigeria, Igolado. And again, that means it's going to be loud. We're naturally loud people. People think we are proud, but we're just loud. and again, Nigeria know they carry last. That means Nigerians will always aim for the best and be at the best all the time.
Thank you so much for being here, Vera.
Thank you so much.
That event on Eventbrite, you can get tickets, is on October 5th. I just want to mention again, so that's Saturday. It's at Alloway Hall at the Manitoba Museum, so in the space there. So please check it out on Eventbrite and celebrate the Nigerian Independence Day. But today, the flag raising coming up, shortly now. It's 7:46. The flag's raised at the Legislative Building at 8 o'clock this morning. That's where Vera's headed. Vera Obehi Kayede has been my guest, the president of the Nigerian Association of Manitoba. And we cannot end this segment without celebrating with some music.
If the bed do no complete, I no feel love you like I want to. If the bed do no complete, I no feel hold you like I need. Like I need. Picture in them myself, I conquer waves, I slay the giants within my bed, towering tall over my faults, then reach. For the life that I want, it's set to grasp when I can see or even talk. When I'm my best and my fears choke me. Living in the walls that I roll my thoughts, with your hand to guide me. Now I don't feel lost. Perfect dedication to the one I love. Now I'm filled with questions. Who's that title for? My heart goes round in circles when I think of you and the smile you once wore. I know you want more than I give to you, but I'm gonna fight this war on my own and I'm sure. Because if the bed do no complete, I no feel love you like I want to. If the bed do no complete, I no feel hold you like I need. If the bed do no complete, I no feel love you like I want to. If the bed do no complete, I no feel hold you like I need. I no feel hold you like I need. I no feel hold you like I want. I no feel hold you like I need. I got days when I don't feel right, and I don't feel smart, and I don't feel strong. Better myself on my daily grind as I kick it back with the money online. Show me your way with the chin style as I bring that smile I see for a while. Hitting that beat with the 4-4 count with your leg walk bounce, see you doing alright. Now I give up for myself sometimes, and I'm torn in two, and I don't mean to. Double-edged sword in my time, if I don't act right, baby girl, you go cut you too. Going back and forth on the same old shit that I talk you through, now you're feeling blue. Now you're getting pissed on the side, make it stand very much, baby girl, I got living in the walls that I call my thoughts, with your hand to guide me, now I don't feel lost. Perfect dedication to the one I love. Now I'm filled with questions, who's that title for? My heart goes round in circles when I think of you and the smile you once wore. I know you want more than I give to you, but I'm gonna fight this war on my own and I'm sure. Because if the
Nigerian Manitoba musician Tommy Fiel and Bedu as we celebrate the Nigerian Independence Day. That flag going up in 10 minutes now, 8 o'clock at the Ledge. I'm Marcy Marcusa. 7 degrees in Winnipeg. It's going to be windy today. Wind southwest 30 to 50, a high of 17 degrees. Well, up next on the show, let's talk more about a story that's in the news today. A new doctor says financial incentives are attracting Manitoba-trained doctors to other provinces. As a student, Stefan Irvin dreamed of working in Northern First Nation as a doctor. Irvin is Cree and Métis. He grew up in Northern Manitoba. But he says resident doctors like him don't make a lot of money in this province and often have big interest payments on the debt for med school, which for him is almost $300,000. So working up north is not affordable. Recently, Irvin wrote a letter to the provincial government championing something called a return to service agreement. Now, that's where a new doctor agrees to work in a certain location for a period of time in exchange for more money during their residency. Now, agreements like this currently exist in Ontario and Saskatchewan, and they used to exist in Manitoba, but they were ended in 2017. Irvin says that dozens of his classmates told him they were considering return of service agreements in other provinces. That led to an interview with CBC's Ian Fraze, who met with him to learn more.
It certainly was talked about throughout med school by physicians that are teaching us, who at their time return to services were something that existed. So it was something that to me sounded like, while it's not maybe advertised, it sounded like an absolute kind of slam dunk that when you were a resident, return to service contracts were something you started signing, because then it also lets you know exactly where you're going to be working when you're done your training, and you can kind of augment or focus some of your training to ensure you're getting the skills and the training you need to work in the community that you've signed this incentive with to go and work at. I mean, the further we go north, the higher our costs go. So even things like food, well, that's a reality for the communities we're working in. It's also our reality when we go up there, and there's no extra funding that we get to kind of top out those living expenses along the way, and are just things that we need to kind of eat the cost of as residents.
You've realized this, you've decided to write to several individuals. What happened next?
And the health minister asked me to forward that letter to them. And at that time, I also included the signatures I had collected of other people like me who are interested in return to service programs. We keep hearing about these 400 doctors they want to hire over so many years, the 100 doctors they're trying to hire this year. And to me, it really felt like I was handing them, amongst with my other co-residents and some medical students, we were handing them so many of those doctors who are ready and willing to stay in Manitoba, but with the financial realities that they're also facing, with the financial realities they're also facing, they're at that point where they're starting to look at other provinces. And we were clear on that this is a list of people who are considering leaving Manitoba when they're done their training because there's no return to service here. So for them to come back with that quick no, and to quickly say that in 2017 the previous government got rid of it and there was no interest in the current government bringing it back was shocking. I mean, a lot of the state of healthcare in Manitoba is because of cuts to healthcare from the previous government. And the health minister at the time, he said that there was no clear evidence that it was retaining doctors, but they didn't release data to prove that. All as they said was they talked to some senior doctors. That they had said they talked to senior doctors who said that it wasn't a good way to retain doctors to the province. But, I would argue asking a senior doctor who's 10, 15 years out into their career, making staff physician money is certainly an entirely different perspective than residents who now are facing an entirely different economy, different interest rates that are really unprecedented. And I would argue when we look at the data that's being released by Doctors Manitoba, that it actually has impacted us, the removal of the prior program. We went from 2017 to 2020, we went from 8th place to 9th place in terms of physicians per capita. And that would be the first kind of 4 years following the 4 years of medical school where the previous incentive program used to incentivize you to stay in the province. Right now I'm training in Manitoba, and I could sign up for any other provincial return to service program across Canada, receive that funding while I'm here in Manitoba, as long as when I'm done my training in Manitoba, I pack myself up and move to that community or that province. For instance, I did my third year of medical training in Brandon. I was there for the entire year. And while we were there, we had 2 different sit-downs as a group with a physician recruiter. While numbers weren't explicitly offered at that meeting, we do know that they're offering them, but it was if you're interested, come back and we'll have a one-on-one to discuss what that incentive looks like, knowing that it is tied to a return to service.
The letter from the province does speak about what's there, and there was a new funding model for doctors that Doctors Manitoba really likes, that I think does financially make a difference for doctors. The province is effectively saying that's enough.
I agree, and I echo what Doctors Manitoba does say. It's a great change. It's to see that remuneration changes for staff physicians.
So that's part of an interview. You can read more about it at cbc.ca/Manitoba that the CBC's Ian Fraze had with Stefan Irvin, who's a resident doctor based in Winnipeg. Now, as you heard, Irvin sent a letter to the government about his idea to bring back return to service agreements here. We have a couple of responses. A deputy minister responded saying Manitoba had mixed results with the previous agreement, which ended in 2017. The deputy minister also pointed to efforts that you heard about being discussed with Ian there to bolster recruitment and retention, including a new physician funding model, an improved physician retention program, and the creation of a rural and northern retention program as well. Manitoba's health minister also weighing in, saying that they appreciate the financial challenges of physicians in training. Zoma Asaguera says the government provides help throughout a doctor's career, financial and otherwise. If you're a doctor listening, especially if you're someone that went through and benefited from the retention program in the past, we'd love to hear why and what your thoughts are on this. I know over the years we've done a lot of coverage of it, including when it came in before and then when it was stopped. So what are your thoughts on this call to have it returned? 788-3205 is our listener line, and Heather Wells is here now with more headlines.
Good morning. Well, lack of daycare space has forced a blind newcomer to Winnipeg to put his career on hold. Oluwatomi Waziri was robbed and attacked by armed bandits in Nigeria 5 years ago. He now is completely blind. Waziri and his family moved to Winnipeg last November. A long wait list for daycare, though, has impacted his career plans, forcing him to become a stay-at-home dad. Manitoba's minimum pay goes up today, 50 cents higher. It takes it to $15.80 an hour. This hike follows a formula set in provincial law tied to the rate of inflation from the previous year. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Traffic updates here. We got a couple calls. Dave called the commuter line and said westbound South Perimeter is backed up from St. Anne's to St. Mary's. He's not sure why, but it's backed up. Kevin also called. Eastbound Narran, just a couple of blocks after the overpass. There's a collision there blocking the curb lane, and that's also backed up a couple blocks. So call us if you have any updates on those situations or new ones. 788-3093 is the number. 7 degrees in Winnipeg under a mostly clear sky, it looks like this morning downtown at least. Our high is going to be 17. Winds will be gusty 30 to 50, but not quite like yesterday. Unless you're in Churchill, there's a wind warning. Winds up to 90 km there. And Brandon has dipped to -1 this morning. Well, coming up on the program, we asked you how you build community, and you wrote into us with all kinds of ideas. But one Winnipeg couple said they do it with donuts. So we couldn't resist. We went to their neighborhood to find out all about a special event that they actually held over the weekend. So stay tuned. We'll have that community building story coming up on the show after 8 o'clock. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or YouTube Information Radio here on CBC. Stay tuned. World Report's next.
Today on Q with Tom Power. Nuno Betancourt is best known as the lead guitarist of the funk metal band Extreme. Nuno will tell you how their hit More Than Words changed his life. The secret to a perfect guitar solo, I'll give you a little hint, it has nothing to do with how well you play the guitar. That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
The journalist Amir Tibon, his wife and young children spent 10 terrifying hours hiding in their safe room near the Gaza border on October the 7th. Amir Tibon on the attack, how they survived, and what happens next in the region on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The Israeli military says its troops have been carrying out raids into southern Lebanon for months, and spokesperson Daniel Hagari says they have evidence Hezbollah was planning a major attack in northern Israel similar to the attacks of October 7th.
Hezbollah planned to launch their October 7th attack from villages across southern Lebanon, where they have been building up their arms capabilities and forces for the last 2 decades.
Hagari says Israel's war is with Hezbollah, not the people of Lebanon. And as its troops conduct a limited ground operation this morning, the IDF is warning people in Lebanese border villages to evacuate immediately. Sasha Petrusik is following developments in Jerusalem.
With rockets from Hezbollah shooting overhead, Israel's commandos moved into Lebanon overnight in a limited ground invasion, says military spokesman Daniel Hagari.
These localized ground raids will target Hezbollah strongholds that threaten Israeli towns, kibbutzim, and communities along our border.
The Iran-backed Hezbollah vows it's ready to fight, with already reports of fierce confrontations. Israeli airstrikes also continue to hit Beirut and southern Lebanon, killing at least 95 people since yesterday, say local health officials. Lebanese Independent Member of Parliament Najat Saliba says people are angry and afraid.
It's really a country invading another country, and the destruction is like one thing after another, never stops. And the killing is not stopping either.
Former British National Security Advisor Peter Rickett says this new phase could also be dangerous for Israel.
If guerrilla fighting develops and they're facing Hezbollah fighters hardened in the battles in Syria, they may well find that it's difficult to do these very short-term, go in quickly, pull out quickly kind of raids.
Indeed, Israel has been stuck fighting in Lebanon for years in previous wars. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The new head of NATO says the alliance will step up its support for Ukraine. Former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte takes over as NATO Secretary General today. He succeeds longtime Chief Jens Stoltenberg.
We must deliver on the package agreed at the Washington summit. The command, the financial pledge, and Ukraine's irreversible path to membership. And we must sustain this support into the future, because Ukraine's rightful place is in NATO.
Rutte says he will rally that support and is likely to push NATO countries to increase defense spending. He's stepping into the job as Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine approaches the 1,000-day mark. For the first time in more than 200 years of independence, a woman will be sworn in as Mexico's president. Claudia Sheinbaum takes the oath of office today. She's a scientist and a former Mexico City mayor. Sheinbaum won nearly 60% of the vote in June's election. She ran on a promise to fight for the poor and improve social welfare. But Sheinbaum faces a tough road ahead. Mexico is struggling with high levels of violence, a sluggish currency, and ballooning deficit. Today will feature yet another opposition debate in the House of Commons. This motion is coming from the Bloc Québécois. Leader Yves-François Blanchet is trying to amplify a key demand. He says it must be met by October 29. If not, he says he will initiate a non-confidence vote of his own. Janice McGregor joins us now from our Parliamentary Bureau. And Janice, walk us through what to listen for in this debate.
Marcia, we're leaning in here on Bill C-319. This is one of 2 private members' bills initiated by the Bloc Québécois that it now wants passed without further delay. Essentially, this is a condition in what's effectively a ransom deal that leader Yves-François Blanchet laid out last week. This particular bill needs more than votes to become law. It would top up the pensions of seniors over 65, the same way seniors over 75 got a 10% pension top up 2 years ago. But the price tag to do that? Huge, over $3 billion a year. Seniors, as a rule, vote. So it's good politics for opposition parties to appeal to them, particularly the Bloc, which acknowledges that their base of sovereigntist voters in Quebec is aging. Even though all the opposition parties support this bill and it's got the votes numerically to pass, it will not take effect unless it has something called royal recommendation. Effectively, the blessing to spend that much money on an annual basis. And it's this call for a royal recommendation to be granted as soon as possible that's up for debate in the House today. Liberal cabinet ministers have said they already believe their government has done a lot for seniors. So we'll watch what they say today to see if there's any hint that with the future of their government on the line, the political calculation might be changing, if not the fiscal one. But unlike the first two opposition motions we saw, there's no wording here about the House losing confidence in the government. So even if opposition MPs vote to pass it, it's still going to be non-binding on the Liberals.
All right, thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
That is the CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. The candidates for U.S. Vice President will meet face-to-face tonight. Democrat Tim Walz and Republican J.D. Vance will take to the stage in New York for their first and only debate. They will have 90 minutes to win over Americans. Many say tonight's performances could make or break their campaigns. The CBC's Richard Madden joins me now from Washington. And Richard, what can we expect from tonight's debate?
Yeah, it'll be a big night. I suspect both nominees, Vance and Walz, will lean into their small-town rural roots and humble upbringings. And I expect we'll hear a lot on issues like abortion, the economy, immigration, and trade. Now, both campaigns are already downplaying their own expectations, despite the fact they both have plenty of experience on the debate stage. J.D. Vance is a senator and Tim Walz a governor. Now, behind the scenes, they've been preparing. Democrats have recruited Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg to play J.D. Vance in mock debates, while Republican Congressman Tom Emmer has been cast to play fellow Minnesotan Tim Walz. Take a listen to how he described it.
I spent the last month just going back all of his old stuff to get his phrases down, his mannerisms, that sort of thing. My job was to be able to play Tim Walz so J.D. Vance knows what he's going to see.
Now, there's an old saying that the job of a VP candidate is to amplify the message atop of the ticket, not to distract or contradict it. That said, both are looking for that viral moment or knockout punch.
Richard, what could tonight's debate do for these campaigns going forward?
Yeah, well, traditionally, VP debates don't carry the same clout as a presidential debate, but they matter, especially in an election as tight as this one, where that small sliver of undecideds could make all the difference. There'll be no studio audience, microphones will be on when the other person is speaking, and each candidate will fact-check the other. So the pressure's on, and curtains will be up tonight at 9 Eastern Time.
Thanks, Richard.
You bet.
That is the CBC's Richard Madden in Washington. The race to elect a new government in Saskatchewan begins today. The fixed election day is October 28th. By law, today is the last day Premier Scott Moe can ask for the legislature to be dissolved. Moe's Saskatchewan party is seeking a fifth straight majority after spending 17 years in office. But polls suggest a tightening race with the NDP. Starting today, prescription birth control is free in Manitoba. It is just the second province to make the move. The provincial pharmacare program will now cover the costs of several birth control products. Health advocates say it's a step towards removing barriers to reproductive health. Cameron McIntosh has more.
Walking to class, University of Manitoba student Maddie Sigmundson says it'll make a difference.
Everyone I know, honestly, my age, that's something that they're taking, right?
As of today, prescription birth control in Manitoba is free. Sigmundson sees it as more than just a monthly cost eliminated.
It's just another thing on top of everything, and it's something that's so necessary, and it's so, life-saving almost. Right?
Manitoba is the second province behind BC to do it. It will cover about 60 commonly used birth control methods, including the pill and intrauterine devices.
The ones that I see that struggle are those that are the working poor.
Dr. Jacqueline Goujon says this will be life-altering for many women she sees.
So this isn't only about contraception. This is about managing periods, other symptoms that can come with hormonal changes, managing acne, dysmenorrhea, so painful periods.
Uzoma Azagwara is Manitoba's health minister.
It's the right thing to do for healthcare and reproductive justice. It's going to allow people to plan.
Manitoba's plan comes in advance of a federal promise to include contraceptives in a national pharmacare program, which is currently before the Senate. The provincial government says it's already negotiating with Ottawa to help pick up the costs. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. Welcome to a new month, October 1st and Tuesday morning. It's going to be still windy in Winnipeg today, and it's 7 degrees in the city this morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio on CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Well, how do you build community? We asked that question, and you told us all kinds of different stories, but one of them involved making donuts. So we couldn't resist. We headed out over the weekend to an event that involved a number of neighbors in St. Vital. And so stay tuned. We'll share that story from our community. In addition, we're asking you on this National Seniors Day, what do you need as a senior in Manitoba to improve your life here? We have a load of comments that we're going to get through, including Jacqueline Castle-Kramer, who says, a national pharmacare program. Too many people I know have to make hard decisions between food and the medications they need. So stay tuned. We're going to hear more of what Manitoba seniors have had to say online this morning. You've been weighing in through our social feeds here. Right now, though, let's go to Heather Wells, who's here with other news and headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. A Manitoba medical resident is urging the province to offer financial incentives to new doctors. Other provinces like Ontario and Saskatchewan do offer contract agreements. Now, Manitoba did once in 2017, but hasn't since. Dr. Stefan Irvin is in his first year of medical residency. He wants to work in northern Manitoba, where he's from, but needs help with student debt. Irvin wrote a letter to the province asking for incentives to be offered here again. His request was denied. Starting today, Manitobans can access more than 60 birth control products with a prescription for free. The pill, IUDs, hormone injections, all are among the options now covered. We're going to hear from Kemlyn Nebhard at Women's Health Clinic, who says cost has always been a barrier to accessing birth control. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 8:30.
All right, Heather, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now it's time for our forecast. Abby Adiyemi has the details.
Sunny conditions before the clouds will be moving in later. That's the condition across the province. We're going to see highs close to 18 in most of the regions. Winnipeg currently at 7. We're already seeing the sun make its appearance. This sunny condition will stay with us for most of the morning. Then the clouds will be moving in this afternoon. It will feel breezy later in the day, and we'll get to a high of 17. Tonight, cloudy skies, winds becoming light near midnight, and then we cool off to 11. Still clear in Thompson, and Churchill is still seeing that light rain all morning, with that wind warning still in effect due to that northwesterly winds that's blowing at speeds of about 60, gusting all the way to 90 kilometers. So you need to take care out there. 2 degrees in Thompson and 4 in Churchill with light rain. Down south, Brandon at -1, though warming up with the sun making its appearance there. And then from Dauphin, Gimli, Steinbach, Morris, all hovering close to 5 degrees. Right now, Winnipeg, 7 degrees, and it's going to be a sunny start, and then we get to high of 17.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, there's been a couple things going on in traffic, eh?
Yeah, lots of things developing out there. Got a call around 8 o'clock from someone who said that Highway 59, right around Highway 311, just about a kilometer north of Niverville, is completely closed right now, both ways, because of a collision. And that I just checked now, and the province has confirmed that that's the case. The Manitoba Highway says there is a detour in effect through kind of local roads, but that is closed both ways. place, Highway 59, right around Highway 311 near Niverville. Here in Winnipeg, got a call from the Bishop of Backup, and sure enough, he is in a very backed up situation on a westbound Notre Dame, which he calls a parking lot right now. He says it took him 10 minutes to get from Isabel to Sherbrooke, and he doesn't really know where it starts or what's causing it, but really backed up westbound Notre Dame.
I didn't even hear the traffic tip because I was so impressed with the nickname.
I know, Bishop of Backup.
I always imagine people in their cars calling us and going, yeah, that's me.
I know, right?
I love that. Sorry, repeat what he said.
Westbound Notre Dame. He says at least to Sherbrooke. It took him 10 minutes to get from Isabel to Sherbrooke. Kevin, eastbound Nairn says is just down to one lane is blocked in the curb lane because of a multi-vehicle collision, and that's just east of the overpass. There, he says, a couple blocks east of the overpass is where that happened. And finally, westbound South Perimeter. Dave called to say that's also really backed up from St. Anne's to St. Mary's. So look up for that. Also very slow going. If you see anything else going on, thanks to everyone who called this morning. If you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call to see if you have any updates on this or anything else you're seeing. 204-788-3093.
Dave missed it because we could have had the Bishop of Backup and the Deacon of Detours.
Oh,
boom!
Look at you.
Who grew up Catholic? All right.
The priest of parking. Maybe I also might call
we're on a roll today. 8:15 the time. You're on CBC. Well, recently on the show, we asked you how you build community. Now, this was sparked by a YMCA survey that found that 60% of Canadians feel little or no connection to their community. And we couldn't help but notice in the responses that one St. Vital couple says that they do it through food. They wanted to get to know people, and so they started making donuts on the lawn. CBC's Jim Agapito went out to meet Trish Vrolik, who's building community, as mentioned, by making donuts for her neighbors in St. Vital.
Welcome here. We're so glad to have you. I'm Trish, and we live in Old St. Vital, and I am a Winnipeg musician, and I'm a mother, and I'm a community builder.
Okay, community builder through donuts. Why donuts?
Who can say no to fried dough? So this is our 10th year doing it, and when we moved into the city, I grew up in a small town, so I had heard a lot of stories about the big scary city, but I knew that people are people, and that I wanted to know who was around me. I thought other people might too. My parents, who are helping with Donut Day today too, made donuts for us growing up, and we would send it out to the neighborhood. So when I thought of what we could do to connect with neighbors, we thought donuts would be really relaxed, really welcoming, and really delicious.
How did you craft the sweetness for the dish?
Well, I can't take any credit for the recipe because I'm using the same recipe that my mom gave to me and that we did as children. It's a basic yeast dough recipe, but extra sugar and extra egg yolks to make it nice and rich. The dough actually is really quick because there's lots of yeast in it. So I started making it right after lunch, and now we're eating it.
Can you describe the atmosphere and what we're seeing here?
Sure, we've got the setup making donuts, and then next to it is my dad glazing the donuts because what's a donut without glaze? And then we've got neighbors gathered around, coming from their homes whenever it works for them in the afternoon and visiting in small groups. It's been a great chance to meet neighbors, get to know each other, and then look out for each other too in hard times. I think there's probably a dozen chairs set up. There's been maybe between 15 and 20. Often that's about average. Sometimes we get up to 30 people depending on where people are and what they're up to.
The joy that this event brings to you, what is that?
I think it can be really lonely living, especially in a space where you don't know people. And just even having names and recognizing faces can allow us to feel connected to something bigger. And I think we all just need that. For me, I know I need it, and that is how I started this because I was selfish. I wanted to know my neighbors. I wanted to understand, get to know who they were. Everyone has to eat, and it's always better together. So finding a treat that I was familiar with, but that everyone is familiar with too, but not as many people get to have it fresh, is just an extra fun way of celebrating community and being together.
Brad Brolick, and this is our Donut Day. Why not do something a little unique that people maybe don't have in their everyday life? And so we invited people over and made donuts, and it's been a hit. So I just have like a 14-inch fry pan here. We just use vegetable oil, and then we make usually 2 large batches of donut dough, and we punch them out into little donuts, and then we just drop them in the hot oil and fry them up, and then we put them on a drip tray, and then we take them over and we glaze them. I think it was our 4th or 5th year. We had 2 people come, and we found out they'd lived 2 houses away from each other for 25 years, and they had never met each other. And so it was here where they actually came and chatted and finally met each other, and it's definitely started to build that connection through the neighborhood that we were hoping it would. I mean, fresh, hot donuts are fantastic, and I think that everyone is very excited to show up and have them.
I'll go with the kids to bring some donuts.
Lisa Clark. I moved here 5 years ago and started coming. That was the first year I did Donut Day with her. I think it was 2 days I was here, so they were still moving in, and she came to the door and invited us to Donut Day. So we've been coming ever since.
And you're eating the donuts. What have they been like so far?
Oh, they're yummy. I want her to teach me to make them. I told her that last year. Gotta teach me how. I need to learn how to make these donuts.
How many have you had today?
3 big ones and 4 big ones. 4 donut holes. And I'm probably not finished. I don't miss it any ever.
Yeah, should we go? Let's go. Yes. Take me to eat a donut. Let's do it.
Go eat a donut.
Okay.
He's gonna eat a donut.
What should I go for first?
Take a big one.
Mmm.
I love it. Mmm. That is yummy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hi, thank you. Do you want a donut? No. So good.
Well, this is the end of the line.
End of the line.
Yes, I do quality control too.
house.
The first ones that come out of the pan end up being checked by me. Hi, I'm Abe Giesbrecht. I'm Trisha's dad.
You are in charge of the glazing, correct?
That's what I'm told, yes. I just do what I'm told. Brad, my son-in-law, is frying them, and then he puts them on a sort of a drip tray, and then I take them from there in one of these tinfoil pans, and then just sort of smother the donuts into a pan with glaze. Then I try and encourage people to eat them.
How many have you had today?
I told the people that I'm distributing to that I'm not counting, and so I'm not counting for myself either. That would be unfair.
So that was Trisha's dad at the end there talking about the donuts and the glazing. Abe Giesbrecht speaking with CBC's Jim Agapito. Before that, you heard Jim talking to Trish and, of course, Brad Rolick as well at their annual Donut Day Fry-Up. It happened Saturday, just last weekend in St. Vital. And it was one of the answers that came in when we asked you how you build community. It's something they do every year to try to reconnect with their neighbors in a sweet way. By the way, Trish is also a musician. Her stage name is Trish V. So we thought, why not hear a little of her music? This is called The Good Things.
Walking next to me, the memory of your body. I wish I could be free of all the heartache, but the good things I will keep. And every breath I breathe as I step to the future, without you next to me, just memories in the future. I smile and underneath I carry heartache, but the good things I will keep. Single tear brings a measure of comfort. When darkness hovers near, I return to this comfort. We never will be free of all the heartache. If we're living, we're not free from all the heartache. I never will be free of all. But the good things carry me.
Trish V and the Good Things on CBC. It's 8:24 a.m. October the 1st, and thank you for joining us this morning on the show. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio. It's 7 degrees in Winnipeg. It's -1 in Brandon. It's 2 degrees in Thompson, and in Churchill, a wind warning where winds are gusting up to 90 km. Lots of traffic issues this morning, and Corey's in with those.
Yeah, so an update on westbound Notre Dame, which we heard earlier, was a parking lot from the Bishop of Backup. Well, we got a call from Ruth, who says that it's because actually right outside the old women's hospital there on westbound Notre Dame, there's actually a big semi doing some kind of unloading in the curb lane that's catching folks off guard. So that's what's causing that big backups there. Thanks, Ruth. As well, got a call from Gwyneth. Eastbound Portage at Sharp. There is a big truck kind of blocking the 3 lanes entirely somehow. So the 3 right lanes, curb lanes. So you got to stay left to get around that. She says people are zipper merging pretty well, but eastbound Portage, that's getting blocked pretty quickly there at Sharp. And finally, just a reminder to folks that Highway 59 at the intersection with Highway 311 right near Niverville, just a kilometer north of Niverville, is closed right now because of a collision. So that has clearly, there is a detour in place, says the province, to get around through some local roads, but obviously that's going to be probably quite bad going both ways. And finally, got a call from Larry. This is also on Highway 59, but not related at all because it's further north. It's really backed up right now to MacGyver or so right now. That's Highway 59 to MacGyver, so southbound. So thanks for that call, Larry. Thanks to everyone else who's giving me a call. If you have any other updates, 204-788-3093.
All right, Corey is staying behind here because we're both holding a number of comments. So many pages of comments coming in this morning. October 1st is National Seniors Day. On the show this morning, we've had a couple of interviews. One of them talked about the fact that the rates of seniors slipping into poverty is trending upward. But the other interview also looked at a proposal put forward by the Bloc Québécois to increase the rate of OAS. And that was related to the need for affordability, improvements in affordability for seniors. Statistics, of course, do show that seniors are not the worst off generation financially, but there's some growing concern here. So we asked you on this National Seniors Day, as a senior in Manitoba, what would improve your life? So let's get to some of these comments that have been coming in on my Facebook page.
Yeah, Susan Rusk wrote in. She says, working people negotiate cost of living and fair wage contracts. But seniors who have paid into the Canadian Pension Plan, who have received OAS, are left to wonder why they aren't considered for fair pension adjustments when they have worked for many years to secure a decent pension. So seniors still pay school tax long after they've raised their families without the benefits now provided to people having children. So clearly seniors have been put to the back of the bus, she says. Doesn't seem at all reasonable.
Let's go to an alternate point of view here. Randy Bolt wrote in, many seniors are financially well off. We should not be providing more blanket entitlement programs for seniors that aren't means tested. Young families with children are the ones who need the most financial help. Gary Friza simply writing in, get dental. So a lot of seniors looking to access more affordable dental services.
Al Bueller simply says getting rid of Trudeau is one way to make life easier for seniors.
Mitch Taves saying, let's reject systemic ageism and enforce the Charter's prohibition of age discrimination. And another one here from Joe Sims saying some specifics. Better pension plans, Joe says. The inflation is causing a lot of people serious problems. A better amount per month for CPP. The pension we actually paid for, and lower our income tax or no tax for the elderly under $50,000 a yearly income. So a lot of people asking for means-tested proposals here, Corey.
And Deborah Bosch says having the luxury of cell service in my home. It seems like that's something she's missing. Also, Vic Pereira, rent control across the board is what he likes to see, regardless of the monthly rates of rents for rental properties. Rent assist based on an individual's income, regardless of whether or not they're sharing rent or paying for it on their own. He says when sharing everyone's income, living at the same residence is taken into account.
Here's a lesson in this is not just all about, the bottom line. Another listener wrote in, safer streets. Crime is a major issue, and also seniors like to cycle. Cycling lanes that actually connect up better is something that this listener is calling for.
Yeah, Mitch Taves actually is similar, not money related, but says let's reject systemic ageism and enforce the Charter's prohibition of age discrimination.
I just read that one.
Oh, geez. I was reading ahead.
Thanks for listening. I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing you. It's all right. Mitch, good comment. We've got to it twice.
It was so good.
It was so good. And here's another one. Did you read Joanne's yet? the increase of cost of living?
No, I didn't see that one. No.
Okay, so let me end with this one. Joanne said, with the rapid increase in cost of living recently, a re-indexing of maximum incomes used for seniors to qualify for additional benefits is needed. And I think we should end with this, Corey. Sean Martins wants a puppy.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That'll fix it.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
And thank you, listeners, for writing in. We did not get to all of your comments, so obviously you have a lot to say. If you want to weigh in, remember, you can always call the show as well. So what do you need as a senior to improve your life in Manitoba? 788-3205 on this National Seniors Day. So thanks so much for everybody that wrote in. During the show, my Marcy Marcusa page acts as a show page, so please connect with me there, and I'll do my best to keep up with the friend requests. But you can comment even if you're not connected with me that directly, and that's often where some of these conversations take off. But the show listener line is 788-3205. Right now, it's time for your CBC Winnipeg News.
This, excuse me, is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells, getting it together here on a Tuesday morning, October 1st. It's 7 degrees right now. We're headed to a windy 17, and that is warmer than seasonal for the start of October. A resident physician says he is shocked Manitoba won't offer financial incentives to new doctors. The province offers a variety of incentives for physicians throughout their careers, but not when they're starting out. Other provinces like Saskatchewan and Ontario have such incentives. Dr. Stefan Irvin is in his first year of medical residency. He wants to work up north where he grew up, but he says he'll have big loans to pay off.
I want resident physicians to be able to live month to month and not worry about how they're going to balance their book and not continually have to go into debt each month through their training program to make a balanced budget. And a return to service incentive is that answer.
The province last offered an incentives for new doctors in 2017. Irvin wrote the province to ask for it again. He even named colleagues considering incentives in other jurisdictions, but the province refused his request. It says Manitoba has improved doctor retention programs and the physician funding model. Lack of daycare space has forced a blind newcomer to Winnipeg to put his career on hold. Oluwatomi Waziri was robbed and attacked by armed bandits in Nigeria 5 years ago. The attack left him blind. He and his family moved to Winnipeg last November. A long wait list for daycare has impacted his career, forcing him to become a stay-at-home dad.
Ever since we came to Canada, that was one of our major, the first thing we wanted to achieve, like getting childcare for our kids, so just so we can start a life, myself and my wife, start my career, start building up myself.
Waziri says he applied to about 10 daycare centers. He is on wait lists for most, and some haven't called back. The province says it is trying to deal with the shortages of daycare spaces. Well, starting today, Manitobans can access more than 60 prescription birth control products free of charge. The pill, intrauterine devices and hormone injections. Those are among options now covered by the province. Kemlyn Nemhard at Women's Health Clinic in Winnipeg says the province's new coverage is an important starting point, but she wishes more contraceptives were included in the rollout.
I'd also love to see that condoms are covered too, so that, it kind of equals the equation and we're looking at all possibilities being covered. Not everybody wants to use hormonal birth control. It can wreak havoc on your body. Some people just don't feel comfortable with that, and they should be allowed an option as well.
Manitoba is the second province to cover birth control after BC. A motion to create a national pharmacare program, which would cover contraceptives, is currently before the Senate. For the first time ever, the Nigerian flag is being raised at the Manitoba Legislative Building. That is happening this hour. 64 years ago, Nigeria celebrated independence from colonial rule. Health Minister Uzoma Asugwera, whose parents are from Nigeria, brought forward the bill recognizing the day. Vero Obehi Kayede is president of the Nigerian Association of Manitoba. She says it fills her with pride.
Coming today was the first time that the Nigerian flag will be raised in Manitoba. I am just overwhelmed with excitement and with a sense of fulfillment that the struggle continues. We'll continue, to be the resilient people.
Celebrations will continue this weekend with an evening that has an event of culture, music, dance, and food at Alloway Hall at the Manitoba Museum. As thousands of Manitobans came out in support of Orange Shirt Day yesterday, some of those involved hope it brings a better understanding of why the day matters. Natasha Marion is Community Coordinator of Brandon Urban Aboriginal Peoples Council. She says education is at the heart of Truth and Reconciliation Week.
And I think it's important for children especially to be able to know our history and reflect on Canada and how we came to be today, and just give them a different perspective than the one that you see on social media and mainstream media.
Brandon's Truth and Reconciliation Week ends on Friday. And Manitobans who earn minimum wage get a boost today. Manitoba's minimum wage is going up to $15.80 an hour. That is a 50-cent an hour raise. The hike follows a formula set in provincial law tied to the rate of inflation from the previous year. BC has the highest minimum wage of all the provinces at $17.40 an hour. Saskatchewan and Alberta have the lowest at $15 an hour. You can find more news updated throughout your day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
You know you're old when, Heather? You look back and realize in 1988, minimum wage was $4.70.
Oh, wow.
Like, now I feel like my parents saying to me, when I was young, a carton of milk cost this or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
I know. All right, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
So if you want to call about minimum wage and your experience living on it, trying to live on it, let us know, 788-3205. Let's have a final look at traffic. I know you've been in a couple times, Corey, so what are just the quick notes that we need to know here?
Yeah, Highway 59 around Highway 311, just outside of Niverville there, is closed completely both ways because of a motor vehicle collision. So that's the biggest issue on the highways this morning.
Great. And Abby, last look at the weather?
A mix of sunshine and lots of clouds will be rolling in. We're going to see highs of 5 in Churchill with light rain and wind warning at this time. And then Thompson gets to 10. The rest of the province down south was seen temperatures gets close to 18, though it's going to be windy.
Today is National Seniors Day, and on Radio Noon between 12:30 and 1, the call-in is really straight ahead, and we hope you engage. Shout out your favorite senior in Manitoba. Grandparent, friend, mentor, teacher, anyone. Maybe it's someone you haven't seen in a long time. You just want to shout them out. Shout out your favorite Manitoba senior. Chloe Friesen's the guest host. You can call live between 12:30 and 1 and talk about that and celebrate seniors in this province. Or you can leave us a message now on the Radio Noon listener line, 788-3797. As mentioned, Chloe Friesen will be guest hosting noon. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our whole team at the show. Corey Funk, Kevin Nipatebo behind the controls of YouTube, as well as Abby Adiyemi in our control room, Heather Wells and Megan Ketchison, and Joni Nicolo in our news center. Our team of APs, as well as our leaders in unit, Leif Larson and Nellie Gonzalez.